on you to doubt El Dandy.
This is Robbie Eagles.
This is the loosest in Australian wrestling, Adam Brooks.
Hi, this is Mimic. This is 5 times the world's heavyweight champion, the Scrap Daddy himself, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce.
This is Brian Alvarez, and you are listening to Wrestle Radio Australia.
Welcome to the show, folks. My name is Josh Armour, and thanks very much for downloading Wrestle Radio Australia. This is our first episode.
Oh, yeah! G'day, this is Big Brody Marshall.
This is Brian Alvarez.
This is Dean Brady of the Millennials.
This is the Jurassic Punk Sid Parker.
How many of you guys have heard the term KP?
Hello, doggers. This is Jay Hunter from OSW Review.
This is Matt Grim Basso.
This is the loosest in Australian wrestling, Adam Brooks.
This is Scrap Iron Adam Pearce, and you are locked in
to Wrestle Radio Australia.
I in the game, I'm champion, I'm Triple H. Undertaker, I'm your maker, bury the brother like Kane. Ooh, 1-3, hit the tombstone, hit the choke slam on face. Ooh, yeah, like a macho heel, turn like country muscle. If you suffer like tomatoes, I'ma keep a couple models. Ooh, and you may call me HBK. When I'm tuning up the vein, you best to get in my way. Ooh, yeah, I'm degenerate, I love it, yes, I love it. If you wait down with that, then I got 2 is what you suck it. Too sweet, put your fangs up. Too sweet, hold another drug. Let's be busy 23, got me feeling way too sweet.
I was trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and it was just awful.
I've turned chicken salad into chicken shit. I will continue to do so.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit. People is as people does, that's all there is to it. But a square peg in a round hole just never seems to fit. And you
This is Bianca Belair.
Hey, this is Kevin Owens.
Hey, it's Seth freaking Rollins.
It is the man, Becky Lynch.
It's Rhea Ripley here, and you're listening to Wrestle Radio Australia.
Hello and welcome to Making Chicken Salad, the Wrestle Radio Australia podcast, where we talk about everything going on around the world of wrestling. I am your host, Lachlan Albert, and tonight, for a massive Aussie wrestling doubleheader, we're joined, as always, by a man who spent well over 700 days as the champion of Australian wrestling podcasting. It's Todd Eastman. Todd, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, my friend. Sorry, I've realised I left my mic all the way over there. How are you?
But as a special treat, we are joined by a man who is returning to the Australian podcasting game. It's Nick Galea. Nick, good to see you, mate. We still do not have Nick audio. That's great news for everybody. Nick is, dealing with the curse of making chicken salad, that you can never get a mic and a camera working at the same time.
If that's not true us, I don't know what is.
It's the most Wrestle Radio Australia thing that I can imagine, right? So I also love that we can see that he is talking. He does have things to contribute, right? It's just not quite coming through. But that's all right. As we work through the technical issues, we are going to talk about 2 fantastic shows that are, say it with me now, free on YouTube. Yay! So that means that everyone can jump on, watch these shows. Those shows are We Are Renegades 2025 from Renegades of Wrestling and MCW Anniversary 2025. So if you're listening to the podcast version of this show, you can jump down to the description, click the links, check out the shows. If you're here with us live, hey, go bookmark them, head to YouTube, search for Renegades of Wrestling, subscribe to their channel. Go to MCW, subscribe to their channel. It's really easy to find. It's really high quality. It's free. One of these shows is 2 hours. One of them's about 2.5 hours. It's a bunch of incredible wrestling that you're not having to pay a subscription fee for. It's right there for you. And what's even better is that if you want to talk about it, there's a place that you can do that. It's twitch.tv/Wrestle Radio Australia here every Thursday night from about 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. You can drop into the chat, let us know what you thought of the show, have a conversation with us, and we can, talk about the ups and downs of Aussie wrestling. It's the best. I reckon we can kick this off with We Are Renegades 2025, a show with a massive headliner, the return of Indy Hartwell to Australia to take on Aisha for the Renegades of Wrestling women's title. But that was far from the only match on a show that also had a 20-man rumble, a world title match, a three-way tag team match. This was a packed show, and it kicked off with a tag team street fight where Funtime Phil and JXT mounted a not-so-successful effort against the Bastard Brothers, Gore and Crackerjack, who are maybe the most experienced at this kind of war that you can get. Todd, what did you reckon of this as an opener?
It's a new phrase, I am the door, comes to my mind when I hear about this one.
And we can hear Nick as well, so that's good to know.
I did the standard Aussie wrestling thing and complained about it on Big Footy until it fixed itself. So
good.
Todd, talk about the tag team straight fight.
Still didn't like it though.
Apologies for that. Sorry, I broke the flow. So.
No, you just blocked us too hard. That's the problem, Nick. Todd, how did you like the tag team street fight?
Yeah, it was good. It was like you said, it was right up the Bastard Brothers alley. A little bit fish out of watery for Phil and JXT, but I guess that made it easier to say, like, this is why they could win, because it was more Bastard Brothers area than it was JXT and Big Rig. Or Funtime Phil. I don't know why I keep calling him that, but yeah. But yeah, like I said, there were some fun spots here. Like, they were determined to go through that door, though. They were determined. Like, there was no way Crackers was going to not put JXT through that door. So then I guess when you have moments like that and they stand out above the whole of the match, like, it'll be 6 months from now. And if you ask me about that match, that's what I'm going to remember. Is it like just having to put him through that door? So yeah, it was a good. That was like 8.5 minutes, I think. So it was a good start to the show. Good start to what they, because it's like We Are Renegades, so it's like a street fight's really sort of renegade-y, if you know what I mean. So it was a nice start to the show.
Absolutely, Nick. What do you think of the Bastard Brothers as #1 contenders for the Ambush's tag titles?
I think it's good. It gives some really good contrast for the Ambush. Obviously, the match that they had later on was very much, like 2025 super indie style, where this is obviously a lot more old school, a lot more character developed. Like, one of the things I really dig with Renegades is a lot of it feels like your old school Melbourne wrestling. And this felt like a very, like, being at this show, being it was on the long weekend, there was a lot of people there that this was their first wrestling show. So it was like, it felt like it was a very easy choice to having four guys that are very character based and very visually based to kind of open the show. And, you got the contrast that you got someone like Jarvis, a smarmy little shit of a character on one side, and then you've got, him running away from someone like Gore on the other. So I think that's really fun. So.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I think it's going to be a great matchup. And this street fight, I think, was a really fun kickoff to the show as well. To, like you said, with new fans in the audience, and especially some people who wouldn't be familiar with the indie scene, I assume, coming to see indie returning to the country, giving them that taste of, here's some of the crazy stuff that we do here in Melbourne with guys like, Gore is especially the one that always blows me away. I'm never not impressed by Gore. Like, all four of these guys did an excellent job and just did exactly the things that they do well. And Gore is always the one that blows me away. Andy at Bob Backlund Fridges says Crackerjack is still the most fun live wrestler in the company with all the audio treats he provides. It feels like Crackerjack is almost a stand-up comedian who accidentally walked into a wrestling show, but just gets the violence immediately. Like, he's always got something to say, doesn't he? Let's compare that to someone who often has very little to say beyond grunts, and that's Caveman Ugg, who managed to defeat Mitch Connors in a one-on-one contest here, where Mitch Connors really impressed me with this one.
Yep.
We all know how good Caveman Ugg is. That's no secret at all. We'll be talking about him later as he main evented MCW Anniversary and, former MCW champion, former PWA champion. He's been over to the US and done the King of Trios stuff and all of that nonsense. Everyone knows how damn good Ugg is. And Mitch Connors got to look like $1 million here against Ugg. Nick, what did you think of this matchup?
I love this match. I thought it was really, really good. I think one of the things that really stands out with Ugg that doesn't really get talked about is he is a guy that, he looks big on camera, but you see him in person, seeing him on video doesn't do justice to how the guy's built like a tank. But he's also a guy like the matches he had with Ammon as an example, who's literally half his size. He knows how to make people look like $1 million too. And I think he really went out of his way to make Connors look like he belonged in the ring with him. And as for Mitch Connors, I've made no secret, I'm a big follower of Mayhem Pro and the Relentless School of Pro Wrestling. I think he's the pick of the school. The dude's every show I see him on, he's just really, really good. And a lot of the shows that most people would have seen him online is the Mayhem stuff with him as the henchman of Jab and the Disciple. So letting him have a bit of personality of his own was really, really cool. And even a thing of when he was making his entrance, he flubbed his entrance and nearly slipped off the ropes and basically recovered from it. And for a guy who's, I don't think even 2 years in, that, he just showed a lot of he showed he belonged on this sort of show. So, yeah, I thought this was a sick match.
Yeah, Andy at Bob Backlund just mentioned that in the chat. Poor Mitch fell off the top rope twice making his entrance. I'm glad they had a chance to edit it. Especially for a young wrestler, that's the kind of thing that can really throw off your game and, set you up to not have the best match. But I thought this was a real highlight to the extent where a couple of times through the match I went, oh, they're going to give Mitch this one. Mm-hmm. And that's just because Ugg is so good at convincing everyone of his opponent. Todd, how did you like this matchup?
Yeah, I'm different than Nick because my pick from Mayhem is just going to be Nate Hunter. I think he's got all the tools. But nice sort of debut on a bigger stage for Mitch, and having someone like Caveman Ugg there to sort of guide you along the way it's hard to go wrong. If you know what I mean, because even if you hit something slightly wrong, he's going to catch you and put you in the right spot anyway. That's the beauty of Ugg. So yeah, I enjoyed the match, and I don't know what much more I can say that you two guys covered, because it was sort of like a by the book match, but I gave him a lot more than I expected him to. So
a lot more than he needed to, I would even say.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Matty Huss in the chat. Matt in the chat says Mitch is doing some great stuff in MXW too, which can also be found, say it with me, free on YouTube. We love to hear it. And Andy at Bob Backlund Fridges noting that the entrance issues didn't throw him off at all. He still had an outstanding match, and this got over huge live. Speaking of a match that seemed to be getting over huge, a 3-way tag team match, non-title, with the tag team champions, the Ambush, Jarvis and Murdoch, able to sneak the win out from under the team of High Life, Kobe Reed and Will Walker, as well as the team of JJ Furno and Ryan Rapid in rapid fire. This was almost the exact opposite of that tag team street fight we saw at the start of the night. Like Nick was saying, this was pure energy, pure flying around. These are all obviously the Ambush are incredible. Again, no secret about the fact that they've been tag team champions here in Renegades for a long time for a reason. They are really good at what they do. And I think this was a great example of why their team composition is really good. Because Murdoch here got a chance to be the base for a lot of people flying around. You've got your Furnos and your Rapids and your Reeds and your Walkers and your Jarvises all just soaring all over the place, and Murdoch was there to catch him every time. I think that this was just a joy to watch in that way that sometimes wrestling's a little bit like junk food, where you just go, here's some fun stuff that's going to happen. Todd, what did you think of the three-way tag?
Yeah, this was very much a get your shit in match, if you know what I mean. There wasn't going to be a hell of a lot of psychology in it. Like after it started, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what this match is. So they did the whole spot where everyone was going to do a high spot off the top rope, just do a cluster dive into everybody, and even have the spot where like Murdoch doing I think it was a moonsault into him as well.
To the outside from the turnbuckle, yeah.
There was something about that. I was like, he's not going to do it. He'll just do something and then turn it into something else. But then when he did, I was like, holy shit. But yeah, like I enjoy Jarvis and Murdoch as a team. I wish they got to work more places in that capacity. I know it's kind of hard with how Jarvis is positioned at MCW to do that at the moment, especially. But the team works really well. Rapid Fire, I really like Rapid Fire, and it really contrasted when I watched the next show. This is the difference between the two teams, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know which team I like better. And we'll probably talk about that. We'll definitely talk about that as it goes on. But yeah, it was like for the length it was, they got so much into that, and it was basically like you had your like hardcore tag match to open the show. Then you had your big man against someone who was just trying to drop the big man. This was your whole look what these guys can do off the top rope match. So it was a nice little amuse-bouche of stuff going through leading up to the Rumble.
Absolutely. Andy mentions that JJ Furno got bigger and faster during his injury layoff. He looks like a star, and Rapid Fire as a team has chemistry forever. Nick, what was your highlight in this?
I thought like Todd said, I thought the match was killer. Like it was a real like cutting edge 2025, super indie style match. Like a comment I heard from a friend of mine who was at the show who said this felt like the same level of the sort of stuff that you would see on Black Label in Sydney, how like they specialize in those sort of like crazy fast paced tag matches. I really liked High Life. I liked that Will Walker is, a flippy, smaller guy, but he also doesn't. In the match, he was a sort of. He portrayed himself as he would do that style, but he would do it in a way that he wasn't giving the audience what they wanted. So everything he did was still impressive, but it was still kind of scummy and kind of cheap, which I really, really liked. And I'm really big on Rapid Fire. I think I'd seen them in PCW, and like JJ, I think that was his second match back, and I think the
first match was a Super Show.
First match was a Super Show, and then he had the match at Ozpro, so third match back, where he wrestled Nate Hunter. But like. He was in Renegades a few years back. He wrestled Hayter in the title tournament or the contenders tournament, and very talented guy. But I think it's kind of a bit of a detriment that some people say about PCW that he's very much a PCW guy, and it's a very family friendly, almost like really like very kid friendly sort of show. And I think. In front of that Renegades audience last time, I think that was where he kind of struggled a bit. Where in this situation, especially teaming with a guy like Rapid, who's basically a made man in front of any crowd he goes in front of in Melbourne, kind of that gave him the rub even before he started. And I think also not just with his wrestling, but obviously, the guy's worked his ass off. He looks like $1 million, and like his presentation has a bit of a harder edge.
He's got a bit of grizzle about him now since the injury.
A bit of grit, and like obviously, like he's over there in DDT in Japan right now, apparently doing really, really well. It's just like I think on this show, like obviously he had quite a fair bit of time off with his injuries, but like he looked like he was like, okay, this is like you said, the get your shit in match. This was like he was here to kill. Like he was there to put on his best performance, I think. So
yeah, he's also one of the Body Biz disciples.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of those guys starting to come up now, where they're just looking
spreading.
Amazing, yeah.
Moving on from that, and speaking of the last place that JJ Furno had been in Renegades was in a contenders tournament. New way to decide on a number one contender for that title was the 20-man Renegades Rumble match. I'm going to put on my my best Excalibur here. A match featuring Ant Kavik, Haiti Lux, Campbell Crawford, Caveman Ugg, Charlie Rose, DCT, Funtime Phil, Hector Jones, Jake Andrew Arthur, OLY, Jake Taylor, JJ Furno, JXT, Kobe Reed, Crackerjack, Matty Romano, Ryan Rapid, Sam Yanis, Tarley, and the Musketeer was won by Lockie Hendricks from the number one position. Let's go to Nick. What do you think of Lockie Hendricks as the number one contender for Renegades?
I make no secret of it. I'm a mark for Lockie. I get sucked into everything he does. I think obviously with what happens later on in the show, like they've been building him as the lead character pretty much since the inception of the company. He's the top antagonist in the company, so it's like I think they needed to give him some credibility as well. Like to just I looked at this show was him that he's not just a character. Like they were trying to present him that he's not a character guy, he's not a cheating guy, he's not a that sort of thing. It's like he's a guy who stands on his own merits, which I thought was a really nice booking touch. And I really like the idea of him being aligned with Hector Jones as well. Like I think that's like Hector's a really talented guy who just kind of needs that something extra. And I think putting him with somebody who could obviously talk for days and as a character for days is a really good rub for him too. So I think that's a really good, the two of them, obviously with Sebastian Walker as the manager, is like, that's as the company's transitioning out of the ambush. That's, I think, a really good setting up for the new big bad in the company, I guess.
Yeah, fully agree. Todd?
Yeah, I liked the pacing in this. It didn't drag. Everyone seemed to get their time when they have their entrance. A lot of times in Rumbles, some guys will forget to. It's one of my pet peeves is when someone gets in the Rumble and no one runs towards them. They just sort of stand there and go like, anyone want to come in and, I don't know, bump for me? Yeah. that didn't really happen in this match. There was always something for someone to do as soon as they got into the ring. It was good to see DCT back. He hadn't been gone for a while too. Also, like, speaking of people that have been gone for a while, old mate Trav is, I believe, Travis Houston from the original MCW days, which is like he was a commentator back in the day. So it was really good to hear, because I remember hearing when it started, the commentary started, I'm like, hang on, that's not who's that? That's not Julian. Who's this guy now? But then after a while, as soon as he called himself, I'm like, Trav, is there any Travs I know? Travis Houston. And I think I messaged Welchie and I said, is that Travis? He goes, yeah, I think it is. Which, if it is, he did a really good job on commentary, by the way, for the whole show. It was really, really good. And it's good to hear him back too. And for someone who you hadn't really, because normally in Australian wrestling, you hear someone's back around the traps and that. You hadn't really heard that he's back around, but he was up on everything that was going on in their storylines as workers, like outside of just Renegades, which is really good prep to have. So I think he did a great job. That's just an aside, because I knew I was going to forget if I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point. To bring up somebody else who's a bit of a blast from the past, as I mentioned, Lockie Hendricks won from number one, but the number two entrant, a returning DCT as well. So getting a few people back in the fold. Hey, Todd?
Well, I believe, didn't he move overseas? He might have come back.
Yeah, he's kind of just returned from ICW, I believe.
Yeah, I believe he went back for a bit and is now... I think he's been back in Australia for, I think, about 6 months, because I know he is part of Carlo Cannon's Vicious Pursuit School in Melbourne. So yeah, so I think he's actually one of the trainers there as well. Yeah, DCT rules. Like, it's a thing where watching him in that match, like, he's a guy who's wrestled in some of the shows, like the big shows for ICW, where they've wrestled in the stadium in Glasgow, in front of 3,000-4,000 people, and he was their champion. And like, you can tell he's a guy who's very good in front of big crowds. And like, a big chunk of this crowd was like a lot of this felt like a lot of first timers, a lot of casual fans. Is all of his character stuff it plays right to the very back of the room as well. Like, he's very easy for a crowd to get into. Just one I wanted to put over was somebody who gets a lot out of a little. Like, I don't know how well it translated on video to the crowd reaction, but live, the crowd absolutely loved Jake Andrew Arthur.
I was about to say that.
I was about
Just
to
the
say
fact
it.
that they made
Like,
a whole spot out of that being a world record of him.
Yes,
a Renegades record about him being a little. I love that. So
he's
good.
hilarious. And when they do eventually, like, I'm assuming that the time's going to come where he's going to become the monster again. I think that's going to be really, really good. A lot of this felt like Todd mentioning with Travis coming back as well. One of the things I really like about Renegades is it has the feel to, obviously with Mikey and Chris Fresh being at the helm, is it feels like pre-COVID MCW, which I think to a lot of people in Melbourne who might like the current MCW but still pine for what there was before, it kind of gives that crowd that fix of what they used to have as well. So yeah,
good stuff all round. Like, I thought this was a cracking rumble. Like Todd was saying, everybody got their moment to shine, and it never felt like it was the same match the whole way through, right? You had your Jake Andrew Arthur moment, which was a goofy, fun bit of comedy in there with, when Jake Taylor came in, it was like, all right, let's get some big meaty men slapping meat. And then, you had your story stuff with one of the things that I really liked about the flow of the match was the fact that they had DCT and Lockie as the first two meant that through the early stages of the match, whenever they brought somebody in, that person, whether they were a face or a heel, had someone of the kind of opposite alignment to face off against, right? If a heel came in, they got to face off against DCT. If a face came in, they got to face off against Lockie. And that made the early part of that match flow really well and let people establish themselves very quickly in terms of whether the crowd should be behind them. I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, and it's also a smart thing to book when you generally when you book rumbles, stuff like that, you have guys that we call generals, where it's the you sprinkle the veterans through the show, through the match. So there's always a couple of guys there that if a young guy gets lost, because it can be very disorientating when there's so many people in the ring, you don't have a traditional match where there's no real traditional heat or comeback. To have someone like a Lockie grab you and go, come on, we're doing this now. Sort of that sort of stuff, that's invaluable for those matches, because especially for those ones, because they tend to go at least half an hour. And a lot of these guys probably have topped out at about 8 minutes for their matches.
Yep.
So when you're in there for a certain amount of time and you've still got to think about, okay, I have to get this guy, but then I have to wait for this. And it can be very, very daunting for those guys. So to have people like Lockie and to have JXT spread through there and UGG and Funtime Phil, and you know what I mean? They did a really good job of sprinkling those guys through the match to make sure that the young guys didn't lose their way, so to speak. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Now, there was a lot of chaos going on there, so it kind of distracts from, the stuff that is on the card that is not matches. So, for instance, Mr. Juicy made his entrance. That's right, not Gino Gambino, but the original Mr. Juicy with his come along and clap your hands theme music, but did not make it to a match as Tyson Reed and Chloe St. James made the attack. Tyson with a bum bag full of brick delivered to the head of Mr. Juicy and demanding that the announcement be made that because he wasn't able to compete, the winner was Tyson Reed. What did you think of this little segment, Todd, in terms of this Tyson Gambino story going forward?
I liked it for the fact that they probably didn't have enough time to give them a proper match.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, so how do we do this and get him over? Juicy doesn't really necessarily have to take a fall, but yet we still get some good heat on Tyson. And I think this was the perfect way because everyone was waiting to see a Juicy match. And Tyson took that away from them.
Yeah.
Which is
great. You're not going to get the bum to the face fun time nonsense today because Tyson's here to ruin your fun.
That's exactly right. So that's what I enjoyed about it. It was a smart way of doing it when you've got, I think it's like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 matches on the card, but one of them being a rumble. So
yeah,
and I think the show topped out at like 2.5 hours as is. So you couldn't give that another 10 minutes on top of that. It's just that gets to be a little bit too long.
Exactly.
So when you've got
you've got a rumble, you've got a main title match, you've got a women's title match that has a WWE person coming back. You know, like you've already got a lot of big stuff on there. So having that
and
like,
you couldn't do that in the rumble because it'll get lost.
Yeah.
Like people are just like they'll sort of brush over that at the end of the thing because the rumble as a whole, they don't really think of the little spots that happen, the little tweaks if it's not a major part of the story, like say Lucky winning the thing and Hector being the one to help him. That is totally different from like say Juicy was coming out to be in the rumble and then Tyson ruins it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of skips over. So
yeah,
I like
Nick,
the way they did this.
How did this land live in the building?
Did what it needed to do. It pissed the crowd off. So it, like you guys said, teased something that the crowd wanted and then took it away from them. I dug that, Tyson using a brick in a bum bag, like basically his character's an Eshe piece of shit. So like, what would an Eshe piece of shit do in a fight? Like he'd take the cheap shot and, hit somebody with a weapon. I really dug this. I think the dynamic between Tyson and Chloe they're hilarious as well. Like they lean into just being the absolute worst possible people. And Gino's obviously a guy who's been around 20 plus years at this point. Like I don't think like they can get a lot of mileage, I think, out of him on making his matches mean something now. And he's a guy that I think does blood and story and, a hate-filled sort of story really well. So I like the fact that they're not just jumping to it. They're actually really dragging it out and making it like the crowd wants to see Tyson get beaten up, but they're making the audience wait for it too, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to mention that I feel like Chloe St. James is just really nailing her character points as far as this role goes. Like, it would be easy to be overshadowed by someone like Tyson Reed, and Chloe, more and more every show, it seems, is really making her part of that character come across really well, which I really enjoy.
Thing is, though, too, like, because we watched New E Pro not long ago when Tyson was there without Chloe. And it was a marked difference, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was still the same Eshe sort of character, but there didn't seem to be the mongrel in him, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's almost like he's an attack dog, and she's the one that's pointing him where to go.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all seen those couples down at the shops in less than
we have
reputable areas.
Also, from like the New E Pro thing, like obviously he's a New E Pro guy, so he was in the company I think a good 3 or 4 years before he came to Melbourne. I think also up there he's one of those characters that I think no matter what he would do, like he could come out there and kick a puppy, and then that crowd in Newcastle is still going to cheer him because he's got that goodwill with that hometown audience as well. So it's really like it's an interesting thing that he can be an Eshe, which probably one of the most disliked sort of people that you have in Australian society, but still do that in a way that could be likable to an audience in one event, but then on another side, can really lean into like five piece of shit sort of personality as well.
Yep, and Andy at Bob Backlund Fridges nailing it. Tyson and Chloe are heels that I actually hate, which is nearly impossible in 2025. And it seemed like the hate was going around for the now former Renegades of Wrestling World Champion as Levi Nixon rocked up to defend against Mitch Waterman and tried some dirty tactics. But a little bit of help from the Ambush of all people managed to get Nick Waterman his time in the spotlight as Renegades of Wrestling World Champion. Nick, what did you think of the match here?
Match was great. Like, you got Waterman's just a consummate like wrestler. Like, just I know he had the match. There was a match late last year where he wrestled Classy Ali, and he took a guy that was pretty awful and made him look a lot better than he had any right to be. And then situation, okay, you put him in there with someone who can go, and like it's just the guy delivers every show. And I'm really big on Levi as well. Like, I think he's probably the biggest success story to come out of Renegades as a promotion. Like when the company started, he was the goofy guy doing the opera and all that sort of gimmick like that, and he's managed to reinvent himself as like being a very credible top guy. Like when with the Queensland show in that Champions versus All Stars match, he looked every much like he belonged as much as everyone else. And I think giving him that, like, I think Renegades have given him a really good opportunity to sort of like, okay, this is a guy with some talent. Let's see what he can do in a higher level. And I thought he killed it in this match. Like, just being trying to take every cheap way out, trying to be the manipulative person, and obviously with the Ambush thing being such a detestable character that even the most hated group in the company can't stand him as well. So yeah, I thought it was cool. And the crowd reaction for the finish was great. The only thing that put me off on it was there was a guy in the crowd who, it's probably a cut that only Todd will get, but a guy looked like Kurt Rambis from the Lakers in the 80s, just kept yelling pretty smarky abuse and just like saying that, Waterman's the shits and he should be. I'm like, mate, like, if you don't like the match, mate, go to the bar and come back later. But yeah, the match live was cool, and it from the little bit I saw on the stream, on the post, it translated really well into video too.
Yeah, I think it translated well. I'm going to say, Todd, it feels like that with the unfortunate departure of the former Renegades of Wrestling World Champion in Emin Usman, that the Mitch Waterman and Levi Nixon stories had to kind of be fast-forwarded a little bit to hit a sensible conclusion. Do you think that they were able to get the most that they could out of this story in this match?
All right, so here's where I'm going to sort of like go. And I just want to say this, like, off the bat, Chris Fresh is one of the best bookers probably in the history of Australian wrestling. And I don't hold a candle to him, and I don't pretend to. But I just think, I didn't really like the way that Levi was presented going into this match. And then B, I feel like they sort of gave up on a good opportunity to let Levi run with that title for a couple of months. Just to see, like, I would have given him a couple of guys. If I found someone that I could have given him as his own little backup. So when while the Ambush were coming out to stop him, so these other guys were coming in from behind and doing some shit. Yep. And so he sneaks away with the win on that one. Because I think he's got that real little shit about him that he could have got away with that victory and then sent Mitch off to try and like earn his way back to that title again. Fair enough, he got screwed out of it, and hey, shit happens, kid. Go back in line, work again, work harder, get back to it. Especially when his title win kind of gets covered the very next match. Not only that, like the way they presented Levi, like traditionally, champions come out last.
Yes, I noticed that too. Yes.
And then there was just like a normal entrance for Levi, and then this big entrance for Mitch coming out. It kind of felt like lambs being led to the slaughter. Really, it was like, here
And
comes
I was
Levi.
going to say, I was actually going to bring up in the next match, it felt like the kind of person that you bring out second, even when they're the challenger, is Indy Hartwell. But they didn't. They had Indy come out first as the challenger and then brought out the champ. To have Levi as the champ come out first and then bring out Mitch as the big name, like,
yeah,
it feels quite harsh.
Yeah,
it's
like
the one,
honestly,
the one...
if I'm big, sorry, but if I'm big imaging booking this, I would have like Levi win this match by shit country, right? Goes on for his reign. Mitch finally gets that chance and finally wins that title back. Guess who screws him straight away? Lockie Hendricks.
Yep.
So he basically gets the belt again. I've worked so hard for it. Lockie steals it straight away.
Yep.
That,
I think
like just that thing that constantly happening to him could eventually do something like turn Mitch heel.
Yes. Yep. Like I'm like, that was the one thing I did have on the match. Like, I thought the match itself was really good, but yeah, at no point did you really think that Levi was retaining the title. Like,
yeah,
it felt like a bit of a, and the fact that they managed to get a bit of doubt into it was a testament to how really good that how hard they worked at it and how much they really pushed for the match. I guess it also felt like, obviously, Renegades has been a promotion that, like, actually Melbourne wrestling in general is not usually monthly at the moment. It's bi-monthly. Some shows, I think there was like a 3-month gap between Renegade shows. It's obviously they're transitioning into a bit more of a regular cycle starting this month. So it almost felt like they were closing the door on Levi's era and starting fresh to go into this cycle of, running more often shows with Mitch as the champion as well. So it did kind of feel like a bit of a hard reset.
But see, then if I'm going fresh, then I'm going with someone who's never had that belt before, belt before. You know what I mean? Like, and again, this is not me, like fresh. Obviously, like, knows more than me, so God knows what they've got planned in the future, and it'll probably come out, and I'll be like, yeah, okay, I was dumb. But for I would, because a lot of shit happens in indie wrestling where you've got to pivot, just injuries. People decide they just don't want to wrestle anymore. Hey, I'm moving. This isn't going to work. And half of that is, for me, is the joy of booking. Because, oh shit, this has happened. All right, let's try this then. And this is probably a reason where I would go, okay, let's try this. Let's have Levi decide. Like, Levi, if he's been planning this all this whole time, surely he might have planned to have backup.
Yeah, that would only make sense, right?
Yeah, and like if I'm massively fantasy booking this, I would have like BDE and masks.
Oh,
and then they don't reveal themselves for a couple of months.
And
then you basically get Ambush teaming up with Mitch Waterman against the big team, and then you know what I mean. You basically turn Ambush faces.
You did make an interesting point, which like what you said about, like, in indie wrestling, you got to pivot, you got to adapt. I wonder if the transition away from Levi to Mitch as the champion was predicated by, obviously, with Emin Asman having to leave and return to Malaysia. I wonder if maybe that was where the story with Levi was going, and they've that was going to be a long-term way of getting towards Lockie being the challenger, and it's kind of, they've pulled the rug out, and it's like, maybe that's left them in a spot where, having the top challenger being a heel and your champion being a heel, they're just sort of like trying to pivot, I guess, to set up, like, if they're going into from what I can gather, it's going to be monthly or every 6 weeks, I believe, for shows at Essendon to lead up to the big Northcote Theatre shows. I wonder, just from a trying to build an audience thing, is they don't, is not wanting to have a direct heel champion with a heel #1 challenger as well. So like trying to maybe make a bit of a very basic understanding for trying to build a new audience. And obviously like they announced, I think it was yesterday, that Mitch's first title defense being against Dean Brady kind of has that very old school wrestling sort of like, babyface champion faces, incoming monster of the month sort of feel to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also wonder how much of the thought goes into the fact that, as we said, long weekend, big name on the card, lots of new people in the audience. If there is a desire to kind of reset that title picture so that people who are coming in for the first time feel like, as much as they're catching up on what's going on with the ambush in terms of tag championships and a couple of those other stories, like the title picture feels fresh. I understand who the #1 contender is because I saw them cheat to win a Rumble. I understand who the champion is because I saw him, overcome a cheating heel to win that championship. I'm starting fresh and I see what's going on. So I wonder if that comes into play at all in formulating that kind of decision. But look, let's cut to the maybe biggest match on the card here. Obviously, when you've got world title matches and a 20-man Rumble, it's hard to outdo that. But having the return of Indy Hartwell to Australian shores to take on first-class Aisha for the Renegades of Wrestling women's title definitely fit the bill. And Indy becoming the new Renegades of Wrestling women's champion had the crowd excited. Nick, what do you think of Indy coming back and immediately becoming ROW women's champ?
She's a star, isn't she? Like, I'll be honest, for a lot of the last run that she had in Australia, I was not a massive fan initially of Indy. Like, she grew on me over time. I thought a lot of her run in MCW was very, very much like she was pushed as the Thing before she grew into being the Thing. And obviously by the time she left, she was. Seeing her on this show, she wrestled, what was it, just over a year ago in front of 52,000 people in a stadium at Perth. Like, it's that thing of somebody who has been on, not even national television, like global television. Like, she looks like a star. Like, she has the thing of, even if you had no idea about the show, you just walked in off the street, you'd be like, I don't know who that is, but that's a somebody. And she just
she's got that polish.
Presence. She's 6 foot tall, athletic woman who looks like a superhero. And so I think if she's coming back, I believe she's coming back to Australia sporadically. I think it was a really good thing for her to putting the belt on her was a pretty safe decision. Aisha's in a position at the moment where I think she kind of not run out of local based challenges. So it freshens her up to be in the role of someone chasing instead of being the champion. And I thought it was a really, really solid match. Like, it was probably the most TV style of a match, like very, very heavily, like that sort of 3-part story act sort of match, which I thought was really a refreshing change, and I really enjoyed it. It was, the crowd obviously went nuts for Indy when she did come out because for a lot of people, she was probably the reason they came to check out the show. Like, oh, I'd seen her on TV, or I'd seen her on Foxtel or something, or on YouTube, or whatever like that. But it was also a thing of, by association, it also elevated Aisha as well, which I thought was really cool. I think Aisha's awesome. As someone who has seen her grow a lot as a wrestler especially in the last like 18 months to 2 years, everyone talks about, Jess and Chevs and those Lena Cross, I honestly put Aisha in that same category. Not necessarily the same stylistically, but like as a character and as someone who wrestles as that character, I think she is one of the handful of best people in the country, regardless of gender.
Yeah, I fully agree. And the heel character comes across so smoothly for someone who, in all my interactions with her, has been absolutely lovely. And then gets it done in the ring every time. Like, I think Aisha is an absolute star. And I think the thing that didn't quite land for me with this match was it felt like Aisha was generally outclassed. And in the moments where she was being outclassed, was just on the receiving end of it. Didn't cheat to turn it around, didn't try to leave with her title, didn't try to force a DQ. I know that a lot of that had just happened with Levi, so you don't want it to feel like a repeat of the last match. But at the same time, I don't know that this match felt true to Aisha's character. And Andy at Bob Backlund Fridges says, I get the benefit of Indy winning the belt and taking it overseas, but the result felt undercooked. There was 10 years worth of backstory to Indy versus Aisha, and they only barely glossed past it. Todd, what did you reckon?
Like at face value, it feels very Buddy Matthews, MCW.
Yeah.
Felt very that. But I understand why you do it. Like I said, the next week or 2 weeks after, she was on an indie show walking out with the Renegades title against Mercedes Moné.
Yep, 100%.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's that recognition that you get for that. Overall, like in the ring, there's just that she's got that I've been working for the Fed for, or been working for WWE for X amount of years polish to her. Where it was like the only thing that I think kind of annoyed me, but didn't kind of annoy me, is that like every time she'd call out to the crowd, she'd be like, "Come on, Melbourne! I need your help, Melbourne!" I'm like, wow, that's very WWE World Tour.
Yeah, call out the town.
Yeah, come on, town! I'm in tonight. Help me out, town! I'm in tonight.
Let's go, local sports team!
Yeah, it felt very much like that. But again, that's probably the last one. How long has she been over? How long had she been over there? What?
6 years, I think. 5
Yeah,
6 years.
I was going to say 5-6 years. So that's like 5-6 years of like just conditioning. So this is what we do on tours. This is what we do in new towns.
I think she only wrestled in Australia before she went. I think it was less than 3 years. So like the bulk of her career has been that televised touring style of wrestling as well. So, but one thing
and like for someone,
oh sorry,
go on, mate.
There was like Aisha did some promos also in the lead up to did a promo in the lead up to this, basically really expanding on the idea that her and Indy pretty much started at the same time as well. So I kind of almost like, I don't know if it translated, but it kind of felt like the story they were going for was these two people started at the same time, and it's Indy's the one who has the physical gifts and 6 foot tall and super athlete. So her path is, of course she's going to make it. Of course she's going to be the champion. Where Aisha is obviously the smaller, like almost the underdog in the story, because she's, everything she has to be by being scrappy or being cunning and that sort of ideal, like on that. So it almost felt like they were trying to tell a story of the characters going back full circle, and Aisha almost like an inferiority complex sort of idea, like trying to prove that, no, I'm just as good as you are, regardless of what differences that we have. We're very much the same.
The only other thing that didn't kind of annoy me, I was like, oh, that would, if I was India, I'd be annoyed, is that Aisha really didn't sell the finish.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 seconds after she'd been pinned, she was just sitting in the ring looking at her. Like nothing had really happened to her. I'm like, oh, sell a little bit, mate. Like, grab your head, do something. It was just very much, and you could see Indy sort of rush her out of the ring.
Yeah,
it was like,
very much.
Please sell my finish. I'm trying to get this thing over.
But yeah, I did just check it, and you're absolutely right, Nick. It's Indy started wrestling in 2016 and was over in the WWE in 2019. So, like, the vast majority of her career has been within WWE. So, the fact that she is coming home kind of a made woman is really exciting, So I'm hoping that we see more exciting stuff in the future, and I hope that it's more our disappointment as fans of Aisha coming across than any reflection on this not being a good match, right?
Oh, the match was great. There was nothing wrong. I thought the match was really, really good. I really don't have any bad things to say about it, to be honest with you. I think it was really good.
For me, live, it felt like the thing of them presenting like, hey, here's the name on the card that you came to see. We're going to give, like, she's Indy's here to do her greatest hits. Basically, did the stuff that she did on TV, the stuff that people know her for, but Aisha was almost there to be like, okay, she's the antagonist to make you wait for again the things that you want to see, and just put that slight amount of doubt into it. Like I said, live at the reaction to it was the crowd went nuts for the result as well, and it's a thing on it is if you have a big star coming back, obviously they got to. It'd almost be like cutting your nose off to spite your face if you didn't, and it's a situation where hopefully that also puts more eyes on the product as a whole, and actually maybe someone catches a rub from like somebody who might be a fan of indies from, say, the UK, checks and goes, oh, watch that, and then watches and says, oh, this Aisha is really good, or sees someone else on the card and goes like, hey, I really liked that person, and it gives a bit of eyes on the product. I also think like potentially going forward is for someone who's been in Renegades, well, like they could do Indy being a bit more a villainous character when she comes back against someone like Tali, who is very diametrically opposite to Aisha as a physical stature. So then and also a personality stature. So then I think Indy being a pro's pro again, like someone who does this for a living, could probably pivot and then be the impressive Indy that she was before she left, and be that really antagonizing character to put a local babyface over as well, even in the making the local babyface look good even in defeat sort of situation.
It's going to be interesting where they go after this.
Well,
and how many dates they have on Indy.
Yeah, and if you want to know what the future of the women's division is looking like in Renegades of Wrestling, there's going to be a number one contendership scramble match at the next event, Renegades of Wrestling Uprising, which is happening on April 12th in Essendon. That match is going to have Charlie Rose, Tali, Rochelle Rogue, Aisha, and debutante Ari Nicole. 5-way scramble match for number one contendership. On top of that, you've got the Musketeer versus Maddie Romano 1-on-1.
Mate, you're dying. Hang on, sorry, buddy. You're going a bit T-Pain.
Oh no, hang on.
Yeah.
Let me make sure that's connected.
Do you want me to do it while you're trying to work out your connections?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So April 12th, we have also, aside from the scramble match, there's a Musketeer versus Maddie Romano. Caveman Ugg will be taking on Tyson Reed, which will be a great match. The Renegades World Tag Team titles, the Ambush, will be defending against Rapid Fire. And the main event, which we mentioned before, the Renegades of Wrestling title, Mitch Waterman taking on Dean Brady. I don't know about you, Nick, but the tag titles being Ambush versus Rapid Fire, didn't they just make the number one contenders with?
I think Crackerjack actually made a promo about that online, about saying that situation to it. So yeah, that's a very interesting thing. The only thing I could think of from a storyline perspective was obviously the Rapid Fire didn't lose in that tag match, and maybe they're going to save the Ambush versus the Bastard Brothers for like the next Northcote show, I guess, like a big spectacle sort of match maybe, or something like that. But yeah, that I thought that was a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, like that kind of, because the whole point of the feud between the Bastard Brothers and JXT and Phil was who gets to be the next shot at the titles. But
yeah, you would think they could have like maybe like in that triple threat tag match snuck over High Life instead.
Yeah.
Because then it's not like the Ambush taking the pin, and then they can say, hey, technically we've beaten you in a match, and the Ambush will be like, you never pinned us, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it was just when I saw that pop up, I was like, you can get your tickets for that at I nearly go ROH every time. ROW Uprising 25.eventbrite.com. Get your tickets and support the company, because they are a really good company coming up in Melbourne. Where is it in Essendon? Do you know, Nick?
I think I'm pretty sure it's or it used to be called the Estonian Hall, I think it was. I'm pretty sure it's the venue Renegades have run at previously, and for any older Melbourne fans, I'm 99% sure it's the old venue that MCW used to run in the mid to late 2010s. So is it the Essendon Arena?
Andy at Bob Backlin just says the Ukrainian Hall opposite the train station.
Yep, it's a venue for anyone who's been to wrestling in Melbourne in the last 10 years would be very familiar with. Great venue, great atmosphere. Like I said, 50 meters walk from a train station. Yeah, like quite a.
The only other place I've been to, like for wrestling in Melbourne, aside from Thornbury, was the one out in Tullamarine.
The Dragonfly.
An MCW show. No, it was an MCW show. It was like a little community hall almost.
The Tullamarine Public Hall. Yeah, that was that was the first MCW show I went to about 2012 or something like that. Yeah, it was out that way.
Can I just point out though? Sorry, the main event for Uprising is I've had to read it a few times to make sure I'm not going crazy. Mitch Waterman defending against Dean Brady. That's money. Right?
Yes.
Dean Brady is one of the best in the country right now. So seeing him travel to Melbourne for a shot at the Renegades of Wrestling title against Mitch Waterman, who is at the top of his game at the moment, like I just think that's going to be absolutely stellar. And Matty Huss says the legendary Dragonfly lives forever in Melburnian wrestling hearts. I was just going to say, talking about Dean Brady and mentioning Matty Romano on the same show, like those are now two people who are going to be able to say that they're WrestleBrania alumni, because this week WrestleBrania is going to be at the Burgee Band Room at 7 p.m. and they're going to have the Romano army going up against the Cava section as Matty Romano and Anth Cava clash with guests Chris Tompkins and Sam C alongside Welchie Bros and Jeff. Tickets are moving quickly for this one, so get yourself there to the Burgee Band Room on Sunday. Tickets from the Comedy Festival website. And if anything that we said about Renegades of Wrestling's We Are Renegades 2025 has interested you, good news, it's free on YouTube. Head on over to YouTube, search for Renegades of Wrestling, search for We Are Renegades. You can get amongst it really quickly, really easily. I'm seeing smiles, so I'm worrying that I'm going a little bit RoboCop again.
No.
And Nick. No?
You'll buy it for $1.
Yeah. It was the presentation, mate, that we were enjoying.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Look, head on over to YouTube and check out Renegades of Wrestling's We Are Renegades 2025. And while you're there, maybe also check out MCW Anniversary 2025, which we'll be talking about right after the break, because there is so much wrestling going on in Australia that we can't keep up with it and need to make these shows double headers. Also, while you're over there on YouTube, you can hit subscribe to Wrestle Radio Australia. You can also do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, wherever you get your podcasts. You can hit that subscribe button, and you can do it right here at twitch.tv/Wrestle Radio Australia, where we will be right back to talk about what happened at MCW Anniversary 2025 right after this.
Finally, the sequel to a highly talked about WrestleRock match happens this Sunday, April 6th.
WrestleBrania, April 6th.
Not in a wrestling ring, in fact, in a trivia off at WrestleBrania.
Your boy Matty Romano
and Anth Cava.
Mr. Absolute Excellence Anth Cava.
go at it again. And this time, we're not coming alone. On my team, I've enlisted the help of my dearest and most trustworthy friend in the trivia game, Welshie.
See, my team...
Gross. Man, that guy's got a roster brain. Rhino, I'm already 10 steps ahead.
I've gone head-to-head with him before, so he knows if it's playing cards.
So I know which team looks better on paper.
In the ring?
And we're going to prove it on the night.
Or even wrestling trivia.
Come on down. The drinks are going to be flowing.
The April 6th.
Cav is going to crack a few jokes. Mostly at you, Matey Romano. Although, come to think of it, they may go over your head.
I'll do whatever it takes to win.
Get it, because, you know, you're short. Just joking. Fair play, Matey Romano. Romano Army. I'll see you there. And remember, cover section, always on top. Good luck.
It's going to be the same result as usual. Your winner, Matty Romano.
Well, Rocky, you said that I would fumble under the brightest lights, and that just wasn't the case, was it? But I've got a taste now. I've got a taste of victory, and you weren't enough. I want more. Give me a bigger stage. Give me bigger lights. Give me a bigger guy. Give me Robbie Thorpe. Give me that high stakes. I want to slap that dumb British beefcake all around the ring. And I can't wait for you to watch, Rocky.
MCW has set the standard for professional wrestling in Australia, and tonight we welcome you to our anniversary from a sold-out Albury Theatre. Champion, he has surpassed everyone else. Brooksy with the swanton on Rookie Monero. What are you doing, Brooksy?
Best title in professional wrestling with the best wrestler.
physicals.
Whoa! Sean, look at him. Congratulations to the team of caloric deficit. Right? I mean, sorry, the physicals, right? Congratulations, boys. You just won the grand prize of facing a Midnight 3. You get to be our next victims. What? You be tense? Huh? What do you think's gonna happen when you get in the ring with Big John Wen? Or when this Carlo Cannon bicep takes your head off? Huh? What do you think's gonna happen? Particles of dust. Okay? And you know why? It's because we're bad and bougie. And you're just bad at bulking. What? What? Step up. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Huh? You know, hey, let's go. Hey, boys, here's some money. Go buy yourself a sandwich. You'll need it. Let's go.
Brooksie's taking Brooksy!
Welcome back to Making Chicken Salad, the Wrestle Radio Australia show where we talk about everything going on around the world of wrestling. But today, it's a Melbourne wrestling special double header because we've just spent a lot of time talking about a show that is free on YouTube from Renegades of Wrestling. And now here's a show free on YouTube from Melbourne City Wrestling Anniversary 2025, which you can also find on MCW's streaming platform Horizon. But again, a stacked show. The fact that you can just go on and watch this 2 hours of wrestling for free is craziness. Kicking off with a 6-man elimination
Sorry.
scramble.
Before you get started, mate, Carlo might want to rethink that name. It's hard to call yourself the Midnight 3 when there's only 2 of you now. I would have just been like, if I was a physicals, I'm like, have you got a mouse in your pocket, mate? Where's your third guy?
Might be
Great
a bit of foreshadowing.
There's not 4 of them, Nick. The's 2 of them. A 6-man elimination.
Yeah, foreshadows.
6-man elimination scramble match here with Lucky O'Leary managing to get the win over Ant Cava, Kobe Reed, Owen Stedman, the Clydesdale, and 13. As Queensland boys up here, obviously it's nice to see 13 look so strong in this one. Just an absolute menace with how quickly he took out the Clydesdale. But the highlight for me, maybe unsurprisingly, is every time I get to see Owen Stedman wrestle, because that kid has got it. Nick, what did you think of this elimination scramble match?
It was a lot of fun. Obviously it was a short, quick match for 6 guys that they could potentially build on to get their shit in. We're going to put you and see, throw your shit against the wall and see what sticks. I really like the idea that they seem to be building with Cava, who, like, the guy who's got all the physical gifts and, he looks like $1 million and all that, but he can't quite get the job done. So there's 2 matches now that, at the end game in the Rumble where he was the last man in there with Rapid, and now this one where he falls up short. Like, that seems to be a really interesting sort of character development they're doing. But the match I thought was great. I have no idea where he has come from. I believe he's from he wrestled in Canada, but I think the Clydesdale is hilarious.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comedy on Aussie wrestling that's the boys think it's funny, but it's not really funny. He is genuinely funny to me, and the interaction with him.
Don't say the boys, mate. Pop the people. You can't say the boys anymore. Pop the people.
I thought the whole thing of him doing the long shots thing and slapping all 5 of them, and then doing the old Wile E. Coyote thing of looking behind him, and then turning around, and then 13 just destroys him. I thought that was really, really good. And the other thing
you talked about the other match. Sorry, you talked about the other match about getting a lot out of a little. That's what he did. He got a hell of a lot out of what is that? I'm going to be in there for a minute. Sick. Can I do this?
Yeah. And
perfect.
It was the other thing on it as well was coming out of this match. I hadn't seen 13 did a few appearances down here, I think about 6 or 7 years ago, for another promotion. And I was like, oh, okay, it's cool. I hadn't seen him wrestle since the Super Show, and I was like, oh well, wow! Seeing him live, I'm like, wow, he looks like $1 million, and again, like I made the comment with Indy with like the the 20-foot test that if you did, obviously the paint and the look obviously helps, but just like holy shit, the guy's built like a brick shit house. Like
he's
he
massive.
looks like a absolute monster. And to the thing of, I would love to see him in a role like I don't know if he's going to be brought back on a regular basis, but like even coming in as a again monster of the month sort of challenger, like even for like the IC level belt or something like that, because I thought he looked amazing in this match, and they really went out of their way to protect him as well. Like basically they all had to dogpile him to get anything on him as well. So yeah, thought the match was.
Do you know what?
Good.
While this match was going on, I was thinking, man, if Dusky was still a heel, he would be the perfect heater to put with him. Put with him. Just point and destroy.
Yep.
That's it. And Andy at Bob Backlund Fridges was saying that this was such a good way to present 13. There was that audible, excited whisper through the crowd of, that guy is massive. And Alex Fireheart said that 13 getting the opening 2 pins was pretty cool. I would almost be confused that he got taken out by a single missile drop kick, but they did have 2 guys pin him, to be fair. And it was also not like 2 guys lateral pressing him. It was 2 guys pushing his shoulders down into the mat. Like that's the kind of thing that it's really difficult to kick out from, right? So I think that was some really clever booking in a match where you need 5 people to get eliminated, right? And I do think that, like, I agree with what you said, Nick, about Ant Caver, and it was good having Owen Stedman tap out to the Caverlock. I think that was a great touch of, it made Owen look like a smart competitor who wanted to live another day to fight. It made Caver look dangerous with the Caverlock, because even though Stedman was able to get out of it once, he got it back in and it was dangerous again. I really liked so much of this match. Do you think, Todd, do you think Lucky winning was a good call here?
Yeah, because the whole Icons thing. Like, if Lucky's not like channeling like 93, 94 HBK, I don't know what's going on right now. Because he had the hat, he has the top, he's doing the dance. I mean, 100%. Like, as soon as I watch him, I'm like, is this babyface Shawn Michaels? What the hell's going on here?
He's gone from Double J to HBK. He's working his way through his 90s.
Yeah, he's working his way through. But I think he was the right call because of where he's positioned in the card and also in that stable. He couldn't have taken a fall in that match because of just where he is positioned in the show, in the roster.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. And there was no real stakes for it. So it's not like winner gets an IC shot, or it was just like an elimination match. So you do that.
Also based on like some of the promos that they had in the lead up and the aftermath of it and to like that is they seem to be doing something with Cav, or like keeping Caver around for Lucky. That could be just like a fun little sort of lower card story that they could do that until obviously like he moves up with the Icons or they decide what they're going to do next as well. One thing I did have on it though, again, I think it was at the Renegade show he did it, is the Caverlock looks cool, but like I've seen him start doing the torture rack in a few things, and I think like it actually makes him look like more physically imposing. I actually think that's a better finisher, but that's my 2 cents worth too. So
I think the torture rack, you can't get everyone up in it.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas the Caverlock, you can put everybody in that thing.
I'm on it.
You're just putting your arms around the guy.
I don't know. I'm just
I love a torture rack. I think having 2 finishes that you can go towards depending on who you're up against can be really useful. It means that if you're in a match where you can get the guy in a torture rack, you can, move towards both. You can build both. You can have them kick out of one but not the other or whatever. But then when you've got a guy where you can't get them up into a torture rack, you can always get him into the Caverlock. Right. So like having both options, I think, is really cool. And as someone said in the chat, it's this Geoff Seat Y said in the chat, it was a good matchup where everyone looks better for being in the match. Absolutely agree. Matty Huss in the chat said had a first timer sitting next to him, and Owen Stedman was the one wrestler he was most high on at the end of the show. Stedman's just electric. I talk about instantly seeing a future in a guy. Like,
I think he's missing. Like, I think if once he grows into personality wise, I think that's just the missing piece. But
I know that he's got someone backstage in Adam Brooks who is very very high on him, so that always helps.
And that's a great person to be high on you. You know what I mean? And then moving on through the card, a women's match as Erica Reed fights back up the ladder to try and reclaim the MCW Women's Champion from Eugenie. But first she had to go through Shay Cassidy, which she managed to do. And every time I see Shay Cassidy, I'm more impressed with her. I thought this was fantastic from her. Todd, what did you think?
Yeah, this was, I think, possibly the best outing I've seen her in. She was really, really good. Like, really, really good. Character on point. She took off the teddy bear, thank God. Because when she started wrestling, I'm like, please don't wrestle the whole match with that bear on. Please don't do it. Because it just looks weird. Just looked weird. But yeah, this was, as someone who's like in a group, she more than stood out. Was like, I was very, very high on her after this. I was like, wow, she's gotten so much better in a really short span of time. And sometimes it's better when you're out there on your own and you don't have someone to lean on. You get to find things out about yourself. And I think she did that in this match. She found, hey, I can really do this. Like, I don't know how much more I can describe it. It was like watching someone blossom over the space of like 8 minutes. So,
Andy at Bob Backlund Fridges said the entrance is super over at Thornbury Theatre. And one of the things that we've said with regards to Backslide Girls is often, you know, it can be riding the line of when you're a heel group, you want the thing you're doing to be booed by the audience. And sometimes Kingsley can just be too good to the point where it's not quite terrible, right? And Shay Cassidy really made a meal of singing that song. And she was telling the crowd to get on their feet, and she was absolutely laying it on thick and just nailing it. I thought that, obviously, like, Erica Reed is a phenomenon, right? There's no question about that. She's brilliant at everything she does. She was our Women's Wrestler of the Year last year for Australia. She has been absolutely crushing it. She was the MCW Wrestler of the Year last year in their internal awards, right? Like, Erica is on top of the world right now. So anyone that you put against her is going to look good.
She's in Japan, actually.
Well, at the moment, she's in Japan.
So technically not top of the world.
Well,
like slightly to the...
kind of in the middle of the world, actually. But I think that, you know, you could have put anyone here and Erica would have gotten a good match out of it. Shay Cassidy more than brought her end of the bargain. Like, absolutely delivered, made the crowd want to see her get her ass kicked. Was a little bit of a cheater, but not enough for it to take away from the match. You know, like, let Erica Reed get over with some of the little stuff, like hitting the pile driver on Barnaby and really selling that it was a horrible thing. And one of the things that I've said a lot is I like when you can hear wrestlers. It is so weird when wrestlers are quiet during matches. And Shay Cassidy does not have that issue at all. She is constantly vocalizing what's going on. She's adding every element that I was a fan of Shay Cassidy before, but this match, I think, really, you know, brought it over to that next level for her. What did you think of this one, Nick?
Like you guys have said, I thought it was great. Obviously, Erica needed her showcase to build herself back up for challenging Eugenie, so this was a perfect match for it. I'm quite open to the fact I don't care for the Backslide Girls as what they do in Black Label. Like, I don't think it suits them, but as villains, I think they're hilarious. And like, this was the first time I've seen Shay wrestling without Kingsley as well. So I was actually quite impressed at how much of a character Shay is as a solo. I thought she was she was genuinely hilarious, but she's just such a schmuck of a character. Like everything she did was just, like that. It kind of the match in a way. It kind of almost felt like it was a wrestling version of like a Looney Tunes sort of situation. That she's like that character. That no matter what she tries, it always ends up like the Wile E. Coyote idea that everything she tries ends up blowing up in her face. And like obviously Kingsley's, I believe, off to Canada, I think. So Shay's going to be a solo act. Like what a statement to put forward in front of a big show to say, hey, look, swim.
I tell you,
she killed it.
If Kingsley, like in the space of when Kingsley's there and when she comes back, she might need to find herself a new act.
Yes,
I can
it might end up being
the growth.
It might end up
I can see the growth.
100%.
Yeah. The one thing, like if I was to nitpick anything about this match, is that I didn't like the way that Erica came into it.
She was
Erica sort of
goofy,
she came into it like it was just a normal match. Yeah, it was a normal match. I'm going to do a dance off with you. I'm like, this like Kingsley should have been in there fucking fire breathing. Like I don't give a shit who's in front of me. I'm going to destroy this bitch because I want Eugenie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
I
it's
think
sort of like
the
I was like,
promos
the vibe of this is a bit off.
Kind of built that up. I really like the character interaction between Erica and Eugenie is really, really cool. Like they're just and like's been mentioned, her and Rocky have really, really entertaining chemistry in these pre-tape promos as well. Like it's like saying like Erica's just all energy and enthusiasm, and Rocky's like, the dad of MCW. He's just like he's like testing his patience. I think it's really, really also makes Rocky like a three-dimensional character. He's not just a cartoon character, like a cartoonish sort of villain too.
Yeah, he's like he cares about everyone in the roster that doesn't affect the icons.
Like he's a guy who does his job. It just happens to be he's an asshole. Yeah.
He's like as long as you like everything that Erica and Eugenie and all that do, that doesn't really affect what I'm doing with my boys.
As long as you're staying away from the account I'm embezzling from, you can do your thing.
Do what you think. Do what you want.
Well, I guess as well,
Being
that he is technically the manager of the company, he's also, I guess, doing what's best for the company. But and obviously, like they're doing the story with the next show with Erica being the referee. I'm genuinely curious as to who Eugenie's challenger is going to be. Because obviously that will be really interesting. It's building a really interesting little division. And to me, Shay previously would have been a character that was like, we bring her in to be basically the lamb to the slaughter, basically.
Yeah, cannon fodder.
Yeah, cannon fodder. This was a match where it's like she demonstrated like, no, hey, this is my case of why you should fly me down.
If they had like another 2 or 3 girls in regular rotation, that would be perfect. Like if they had another couple of baby faces there that she could work with as well, that would be perfect. Because it's really just like at the moment it's like Erica, Eugenie, and then like you said before, like heel of the week or baby face of the week that comes in. They kind of need to broaden that out a bit of regular characters.
Yeah. And Eugenie's not from Melbourne either, right? She's flying down from Queensland.
Yeah.
So
I think that's in a way where it's kind of hurt them with her retirement. I think it's a shame that Cherry Stevens has retired from wrestling because, like, she would really fit into that rotation, not just as a wrestler, but as a character as well. So, but one thing I will say with MCW, I've been quite vocal online in the past of saying, there's not enough Melbourne and Melbourne City wrestling. It does seem like that is really changing, and there is some Melbourne women talent coming along really well too. So
you know what though too, because I agreed with what you said when you were saying it, but I also agree with like their stance of like, look, this is a level that we have.
Be the best or nothing. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, this is what the level we have, and we're not going to put people on that we don't think are at that level or are not quite ready yet, because we don't want them to look bad, and by chance we don't want us to look bad by proxy. Which, like, I think that's at least for me when I've been working with companies, has always been like this is cool, and I know you've got mates and all of that, but I'm all about quality control.
100%. But on that sort of thing, like we didn't mention it, but on the pre-show of the of this show, like they did the entry into the tag tournament where they did the cycle versus the physicals, and that was a case of 4 young guys, like combined, probably have less than 50 matches between the 4 of them, and they were like, okay, well, we're going to give you guys a shot, and all 4 of the guys killed it. The physicals got over like a house on fire, and they're obviously wrestling the Midnight 2 on the next show. Yeah, I think it's when I think it's a case of once some people do like it's just. I think the big thing we had that's missing in Melbourne is just the number of shows for people to get their reps, which is what especially South Australia and New South Wales both have, plenty of shows. So guys, I think
is it the number of shows or is it the number of good shows?
Bit of column.
Because like I see a shitload of promotions popping up everywhere.
Off on a tangent. I think the proliferation of shows from some promotions that have turned into a bit of a dog's breakfast have been that there's talent in Melbourne who have talent and have something to work with, but they can't really put it into practice. So that's when the idea of, okay, I'm waiting to get an opportunity on a bigger show. But if that's like, I need, like, otherwise you're just training and putting it to waste. That's where I think, like we said, with Renegades running a little bit more often, hopefully like Mayhem Pro runs a bit more. PCW runs their student shows every week. They seem to have a very open door sort of policy. I think that's super important because I think
know I've had this discussion with like young guys up here when they've asked me about working certain shows and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And like with some of them I've said, look, you've got to look at the quality. Like it's good to get reps. You also got to look at the quality of reps you're getting.
Yes.
Like sometimes you'll probably get better results by just doing practice matches at school with some of the guys than you would on some of the shows.
Yeah, absolutely true.
I do think like it's a situation where I don't necessarily think working a quote unquote bad show is necessarily a bad thing. If you got like two guys from a reputable school are working each other on a lesser show, that and putting their training into practice in front of an audience, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's more the proliferate, like the idea that I might cut myself on that one before I get myself into trouble. I just think
I think it's more being particular, like not so much where you work, but who you're working, where you're working
with. Yes, for and with.
Yeah, I don't want to no offense, but I just don't want to work fucking Johnny shit pads. I don't want to do it.
I think the thing as well is now with MCW using a lot, you look at a guy like Lucky, you look at guys like Rapid, obviously they gave him an opportunity, he's caught like a house on fire. I think the problem is for a lot of younger guys, I think now that they're seeing Melbourne guys being on Melbourne shows, they're saying that's a part, and obviously again, the Relentless pre-shows on MCW, the Relentless guys being on Relentless and Vicious Pursuit guys being on Renegades. I think they're seeing that as a way forward because there's young guys from this city getting an opportunity on shows, where before, if it was MCW had a period for a time, they were over 50% fly-ins from interstate, where a lot of prospective people could be forgiven for having the attitude of going, I'm not going to be seen on the level of someone from PWA or someone from Riot City or someone from Wrestle Rampage, so I'm not even going to aspire to it. I'll work shows where I can practice my art and do the best I can in my way, And then if the opportunity to go onto MCW, for example, comes, because I've earned it, great. But if they don't pay attention, I can still get what I want out of wrestling as well. So it's like, the only thing is that I do think that that's the potential of when you get, Mr. Shitnacker's promoter could potentially look at that and take advantage of that. But then that's how long's a piece of string with indie wrestling. So,
well, I also like the point that Jeff's making in the chat where he says, I really like the dark match idea at MCW. Yes, it introduces next year's group and gives a chance for young folk to get reps, which I fully agree with.
Well, I mean, that was the whole idea of Mayhem Pro.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And they're doing great work,
Yeah. Well, it's like using a sports analogy, I think the draft class of 2026 of what is Melbourne wrestling is going to be amazing because there's guys who have got less than a dozen matches who are already putting it together and have got so much to offer from like multiple places. It's just a matter of preparation meets opportunity, so it's like I'm as someone who's been traditionally a bit of a jaded person online about wrestling in the past. Wrestling in the past.
Nicolia, no.
Yeah, and it's a situation where I genuinely think that there's so much to be positive about. Like, and the fact that there's some people who are reinventing themselves and finding ways, like Erica's a great example, like in her position now, where she's been around the best part of a decade and was kind of floating in that little area for a while of not being on the smaller shows, but not being on the bigger shows. And then she got this opportunity in MCW and OPW and she just smashed it. And it's like,
she is a perfect example of like sticking it out and working.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and it's like, I think that might have opened the eyes to people like, people like Rocky or people like Rowan and those sort of people, like people who have influence and gone, oh shit, like, if we give people a shit, like we don't have to always just rely on the quote unquote names.
Yeah, so, I know. There's a particular tag team that I hounded Rocky into getting on at least their pre-show to have a look at him, because I knew once he looked at him, he like, I can do something with those kids.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just to bring it back to what we were saying about this women's match, I do have a little bit of a criticism, which is, but I absolutely love Eugenie, and that everybody knows how highly I think of Eugenie.
Yes.
When she's cutting a promo to camera, you can feel kind of the roteness of it, which is really frustrating to me because she's such a naturally charismatic person, right? Like, talking to Eugenie at any point, she comes across with just so much energy, and I can feel that to get that heel character across, she really is like kind of closing herself in and going, do the lines, get the promo cut, and it can feel a bit stilted. I'm really hoping we can see Eugenie just get that last little notch on the bow in terms of being able to cut those heel promos a bit more naturally.
Eugenie's a lot better. Eugenie's a lot better cutting those heel promos when she's got the boys behind her.
Yeah. Yeah, giving her that bit of confidence to flow.
She's very good about that. Like, very good with that. Like, it's also like a learning thing. Like, she'll get it. I have no doubt that she'll get it because what she does is that she listens.
Yeah.
As a thing from
obviously you guys working in it, it also could be potentially the thing of if you're speaking into a camera, you're taking away the crowd aspect of it as well. So maybe it could feel a little bit unnatural if you're just speaking into a phone, like to a camera on a phone, as opposed to actually speaking to a person.
Yeah. Those promos are so hard, especially if you're filming a promo on your own with just like a tripod. That's really hard because you got no one to go, was that good? How did you feel about it? Like, you got no one to do that with. It's very hard to do. I've had to do it myself, and I hate doing it.
Let's also recognize.
Send. What do you think of this take? Cool.
Let's also recognize that for Eugenie, like if you look at as far as cage match goes, like I know how long she's been training and stuff, but other than one match in 2021, halfway through 2023 is what's down as like her second match, right? So the fact that in that short of it, like really under 2 years has been the almost entirety of her career in ring. For her to be delivering at the level she is wild. So that's just that last piece of having that confidence when she's by herself to cut that. It's a tricky thing, but that's, I think, the next step for her. Speaking of next steps, the next step in the lineage of the MCW Inter-Commonwealth title is a little bit of a rerun. We now have a 5-time Inter-Commonwealth champion as Adam Brooks defeats Robbie Thorpe to once again become Inter-Commonwealth champ, taking back Brooksy's belt. I'm going to hold off on Todd and I'm going to go to Nick. What did you think of Brooksy becoming the MCW Inter-Commonwealth champion once again?
The match was ridiculous. Like holy shit. I know you guys have said the thing before where like Brooksy's almost a situation where you can't almost count him as a Aussie wrestler, like as in part of the Aussie indie scene. He's one of those guys that's like that next sort of level
he
up
transcends
into
it.
I've been really high on Robbie Thorpe since seeing him in PCW like pre-COVID. Like I just thought like he's an obscenely talented guy, and he's done amazing. Like he's kicked so many goals in MCW, like doing so well. But I think this was a situation where they gave like, okay, we're going to give you the goal, give you the ball. Like you guys, you have like free reign, go nuts, and they just went for it. And I thought, holy shit, the match was good. Like it's that thing that. Like Brooksy has a thing with it where you see him on routinely on shows, and you're like, holy shit, he's a really good, quote unquote, really good Aussie wrestler, like or independent Australian wrestler, like where every show he's like he'll have that good match. But then when they bring in someone like the show they did for OPW at Thornbury where he wrestled Mustafa Ali, and he just had that extra gear that he could just go that extra level, which a few guys in Australia have, like what Robbie Eagles has as well.
Yeah.
Like that, just that little bit extra. And it was a thing of like, it didn't make Robbie look any lesser for taking the loss. Obviously, it made Brooksy look like, a god of a character. And yeah, the crowd just went mental for it. The only thing, to be my pedantic self, the only thing I wouldn't have is I don't think Brooksy needs the belt, because he's a situation where like he has that much goodwill with that crowd, like he doesn't need it. The other thing is like the story with Jarvis and the Icons is I would have thought that should have culminated with Jarvis beating Robbie for the IC belt. That's my feeling. There was one thing that I don't know if this is a deliberate thing or if it's just a bit of happenstance I like, is live when all the Icons members have the Icons video before their own video, their own entrance plays. Robbie, Lucky, and Rocky have the video where it's got the thing, and it's got the 4 current members. So it's got Rocky, Brooksy, Slacks, and Robbie Thorpe, where Brooksy's video only had Rocky, Slacks, and Brooksy as the thing. So I don't know if that's a thing of like maybe a little bit of like
yeah, because Brooksy never accepted him.
It's cool if it's a
I think it's deliberate because Brooksy never accepted Thorpe in that group.
Yeah, and it's a thing like for someone who's ADHD'd and hyperfixates on things like the massive nerd I am. I thought that was a really nice little bit of a touch. The only thing
I love having Nick on the podcast, by the way, guys.
Sorry. Being a bit pedantic on it though is the only thing I will say. I think it kind of it doesn't justify what happens later on in the show, because Brooksy went to Rocky and asked for the match. Rocky gave him the match.
Yeah.
Brooksy wins the belt. And like it's like I would have thought
Brooksy still fucks him over sort of thing. Yeah.
Brooksy getting fucked over for the belt would have made more sense. But the match itself ruled. That's something that you could put on any show in any promotion anywhere in the world and go, hey guys, this is what Australia puts out. Have a geese. And like it's
Do
not
you know
just
what,
like
though?
it's
Like,
good for indie wrestling. It's good fucking wrestling.
yeah, being like a devil's advocate there, right? You've got Brooksy with that belt, who, and let's face it, like Brooksy thinks the same way. I think that Commonwealth belt is like the Intercontinental belt. It's the workers' title.
Yep.
So he will put on the best match on the card, best wrestling match on the card every night. And now you've got a murderer's row of young heels coming up that he can work. Like, he could probably give like Lucky his best match ever. He could run it back again with Robbie and give Robbie
I'd
another
love to
match.
see Muscle 13, to be honest, again, like going on that Monster of the Month sort of idea.
Yeah, he could do that as well. He could, like, there are guys like fucking like, oh, like name it. Like, you could have, I'll go back against it for again. And you can have, like, he'll just work with whoever he has to work with and make them, like the next show he's got Ryan Rapid. Now you tell me that's not going to be a curtain, like a backstage sellout.
100%, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
that's why they've put that belt back on him. Because no matter who we put him on, like if say Ricky can't make it, we've got Brooksy. We'll put Brooksy in that main event defending the
He's a guaranteed main event, yeah.
And no one's going to say anything about it.
I think Robbie Thorpe absolutely delivered here. He was really fantastic in this spot. He did everything he needed to do. He was someone that people wanted to see Brooksy beat. He looks the part in the match. Physically, he delivers. Character-wise, he delivers. I think that Robbie was excellent here. Brooksy, honestly, I'm not going to try to review Brooksy's part in a match anymore. He's the duck's nuts. He's the cat's pajamas. He's the fucking best. He is so damn good. He has been that damn good for just about forever now. He's Adam Brooks, right? So yeah, this was stellar. Todd, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, no. Like I always say, it's a travesty he's still here. He shouldn't be.
It's insane.
He just
insane.
Shouldn't be. I mean, like, he's got, especially now, because I don't know if he works with Slex or that, but his body, like, he's stepped it up again over the last 12 months. And like, if you ever like on a show with him, you know how pedantic he is with his food, his conditioning, his like everything. Now it's amazing to see like the dedication he has with someone with that much dedication who works as well as like Brooksy does in the ring. Like I said, it is a travesty he hasn't been picked up by somebody. Like, I don't understand why. I cannot for the life of me rack my brains as to why they would not have someone like him on there. Wouldn't be able to find a spot for someone like that guy on the card. When you see people on these cards in quote unquote big promotions that could not hold his jock, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, Jeff in the chat.
It did feel like a situation where it's almost like a guy who should have been signed wrestling a guy that I think at some point, like obviously Australian wrestling does seem to have eyes on it from overseas. I think Robbie Thorpe's going to be a guy that it's a case of enjoy him while he's here as well, because like he ticks the boxes for what American promotions.
Every time I talk
want.
to Rocky about Thorpe, I just call him Baby Vink.
Yeah.
Because that's who he reminds me of. He reminds me of like Sexton, when Sexton was doing his thing in MCW and before that in Riot City. Just reminds me of a young Sexton. And
Jeff,
if you're a young Sexton and you've got like Rocky in your ear, you're going to do nothing but grow if you listen.
Jeff with a good shout in the chat saying Kava will be a good matchup for Brooksy for that Intercommonwealth title. And Matty Huss says, I never cease to be baffled when I see Brooksy's social media posts about his free upcoming dates for bookings. How is he not booked all the time everywhere?
He charges so much. No, I'm joking.
It's at the point where it's like, I could just buy a ring and get Brooksy to come wrestle for me so that I could watch Brooksy, because it's worth it at that point. He's that good, right? We've got to move on and talk about the new fiery babyface Jarvis managing to get one over on Rocky Monero after coming out through the crowd and just having the audience fully behind him. It is so interesting to see someone who had all the heat in the world in that building now coming out through the crowd and getting those cheers. Todd, what did you think of Jarvis and Rocky?
Like, this was the epitome of because I've known Rocky for years. It was sort of like when they got in the ring, I could see Rocky almost go, "All right, kid, I'm gonna teach you how to work now. You've got all the moves. You look cool. You can talk. Now let's show you how to work. Let's show you how to do the least amount and get the most amount out of it." Because that's what Rocky does perfectly. And when you've got someone who can do as much as Jarvis, if you can hold some of that stuff back for the big moments and just learn to work. Because like Rocky doesn't really have to do a lot. No. And all of his matches get over because he's like, psychology is there. So anyone that works with him is going to get that psychology rub, if you know what I mean. So I love the fact that it was just like, all right, young, and I'll teach you how to work now. Because that's what it felt like for me sitting at home watching it. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, like Rocky's just a mental master of the game. I always come back to, I think it was like the second local show that I went to had Rocky on it in a triple threat match. And I was sitting in the front row and there was a point where the person in the ring was going for a suicide dive to the outside and Rocky picked me up from the front row and held me in the way of the suicide dive. And as the person was about to come through the ropes, they got cut off by the third guy. And it's like, oh, he did such a little thing, but now he has made the crowd feel like they're involved. He's shown that he's an absolute chicken shit who's going to do whatever he can to not get hurt. You know, there's so much of this clever little, it's not a big amount of energy that he's putting in, but the results he's getting from it are just incredible, right? And Jarvis is absolutely going to benefit from that because this fight through the icons is just going to be a delight. And having Brooksy by his side is not going to hurt. Nick, what did you think of this one?
Fun match. I liked Rocky is very much Rocky goes at Rocky's pace, obviously. I liked seeing him have a bit more, like obviously, you know, he comes out, he's the dad of MCW. He's that kind of, yeah, he's the man in the suit kind of guy who wrestles wrestles on the show as it's needed. But getting him to have a bit of a mean streak and be like really vicious and aggressive was really cool. He made a really good mountain for Jarvis to climb. So
yeah, great way to put it.
And obviously the situation where the run in from Brooksy and that it wasn't a situation where it handed the win to Jarvis. It was like it kind of just sealed the way that things were going, which I thought was good. It's an example, like I've heard Rocky say in interviews, I shouldn't have to still be here, or that's why he's a guy who.
Do you know what it is? That was the little touches. He went for that handspring, and all Rocky did was put a boot up.
Yep. But he's also really good. Is you had the situation of you look where this is on the card that you've got Brooksy and Robbie Thorpe on one side, and then Waterman and Rapid versus the Classics afterwards. It was a really good match to sort of bring the crowd down, let the crowd catch its breath, have something that they're still invested in, but it's not. You're not burning out an audience as well. So it was a palate cleanser. So I thought it was really good, and did what it said on the tin, made Jarvis look like what the crowd wants him to be as well. So yeah.
I just have to interject because I just got a text from Brooksy, and I'm going to read this in Brooksy. So please excuse any.
I love your Brooksy, please. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not going to do the impersonation, but I'll read.
Oh, you're not going to do the Brooksy?
I'll do the.
Get around it, fellas.
Get around me, fellas. I quickly clicked on your stream and saw you talking about me. Made me chuckle always. Very kind, thank you. P.S. Brooksy doesn't like Robbie. I don't want that cunt's name on my intro video.
There it is, baby. There it is.
Confirmation.
So good. The master. Absolute excellence, right? And I'll just say as well, Jarvis's clip it. What a great finish. What a great finish. Pops up out of nowhere. Looks great. Love it. So I wanted to put that up there as well. Moving on, as Nick just mentioned, MCW Tag Team #1 Contendership Tournament first round matchup had Mitch Waterman and Ryan Rapid in a team that I'm calling H2O 2.0, taking on the Natural Classics. And Waterman and Rapid managed to get the win in this one after a war with the Philippes. I will say, we've talked a lot about the Philippes, and this is the version of them that I'm most excited by, is get in the ring, be bloody good wrestlers, and then leave when the bell is rung at the end of the match. Like, that's what I want from them, because in ring, they deliver, right? I think that they can sometimes run the risk of making their offense look kind of ineffectual because they're doing so much that in order to keep the match going, the opponents have to kick out of ridiculous stuff, which I feel like they almost missed the memo from Rocky. You know what I mean? They're doing it all rather than you've got Rocky the match before who's showing like, I just put the boot up, and it gets everything that what the Philippes are doing gets, right? So there's that little bit of like, I guess, restraint and cleverness that I think would boost up what they're doing a little bit. But Waterman and Rapid, I mean, you know, talk about being those pure babyface, high flyer craziness. Like the way that especially Rapid here was the babyface in peril while still being explosive, I thought was just brilliant stuff. Nick, how'd you like this one?
Killer match. Like, obviously, I've openly said I find the Philippes to be a bit on the dry side as characters. But like, this felt like the matches that I'd seen them have in Slam in Canberra, where they're not overtly antagonistic, but they are the opposition. So they're not going out of their way to be, villains or anything like that, but they're what stands in the way of, their opponent's quest, pretty much. Like, physically, they are so impressive at what they do. They look like $1 million. They're proper athletes. And in this match here, like, I think the sort of like the drier aspects of their character weren't as magnified because obviously you had the story they were telling with Rapid and Waterman not necessarily always getting along as well. Plus, you've got those two guys that the crowd is so invested, especially like, holy shit, like ever since he took the face paint off the crowd, that crowd loves Ryan Rapid. It was just like that was the best spot for the classics. It showed what they can do. Like, because they've been on MCW as a duo for like, since pre-COVID, like 5-6, best part of 5-6 years now. So it's almost like a bit of overexposure between the two of them, that sometimes it's like, this was a match where you're like, oh wow, I forgot that they can do that. Like, Stevie was the guy who pre-COVID had a match where he went 20 minutes with Will Ospreay and looked like every bit he's equal. And almost like they'd gotten lost a bit in the shuffle in MCW because of just the standard of the talent that is coming in, where this was almost like an example of them of like, okay, we're in this tournament, we're an established team, we're going out in the first round, but we're also going to remind them, hey, this is what we can actually do. So I'm really, of any guy in that company that needs a manager, they would so benefit from having a manager because they've got everything else. It's just the character aspect of them. And yeah, as for like their opponents, yeah, like awesome. Like, again, what we mentioned with that freeway tag on the Renegade show, same deal here. Cutting edge 2025. This is what Aussie wrestling is and has been for a while. Like, it's not just what they're seeing on YouTube and they're replicating and it's like 90% of the thing. It's like, no, there's guys in Australia a lot of guys in Australia who are the cutting edge. They are every bit as good as, if not better, than anyone in any other independent promotion, or in some cases even like a global promotion as well. So, yeah, it was. It felt like they did the trip to New Japan. Maybe that sort of rubbed off a bit on them as well. So.
Andy at Bob Backlund Fridges in the chat says they're too good to be gatekeepers. MCW have done the classics dirty over the last 3 years. Todd, do you agree that the classics have been hit under a bushel a little bit?
No, not at all. They gave him the rocket. They gave him everything. And they are, I don't know how many times we've said this on the show, right? There is examples we say, like, this dude's an awesome wrestler, and then the bell rings. Whereas the natural classics are the complete opposite of that.
Yep.
Like, they're not very good until the bell rings.
Yeah.
Then they're great.
Like,
unfortunately, they just don't. They don't have the charisma. They just don't. And like sometimes it's not something you can teach, unfortunately. But they are amazing workers, absolutely amazing workers. And you're right, Nick. A good manager would be perfect for them because they could talk. It's even the fact, like, I'll say, like, I love the fact that Mitch and Ryan are together as a tag team. I think that is an amazing idea. I don't know if it was the boys coming up to the management and saying, hey, we'd like to try this, or if it was management going, hey, we have this idea about you two together. Because I find that Mitch sometimes can be a bit like that, where he doesn't have, when he was in the former tag team, his tag team partner very much carried that personality part.
The character side, yeah.
The character side. Whereas I find the same thing with Ryan. Ryan's got that, he's got that something about him where you just like the dude and you want him to get up and and I think that's rubbing off on Mitch already, where you can see the two of them like starting to get along. There'll be that point now, like every now and then when they'll do something and you see them smile at each other and like, thank you, get a bit of personality out, because Mitch sometimes is very like you can't, if you listen to the podcast, that was perfect. Yeah, very like stone face, very like, this is I'm a fucking wrestler. Whereas Ryan is sort of just like, I'm fucking pretty good at this. Hey, that shocked me. You know what I mean? Sort of like Brooksy can be the same with that. Like Brooksy will pull a move on and go, fuck, that was pretty good, eh, boys? Like, it's like, again, stuff you can't teach. I feel like, and that's something that the natural classics, they just need something. They need a manager, they need a mouthpiece, they need someone to bring out a personality in them. Like Tiger and Phoenix aren't doing it.
Yeah.
They're just not. Like, it's good for Japan, because Japan, you don't necessarily need that. Like,
the larger life,
it's very much about when the bell rings. And that's when they're really fucking good. Like, when the bell rings, really fucking good. And unfortunately, that only makes up for a certain amount when it comes to pro wrestling. I know that sounds silly, but it's the fact. Like, pro wrestling isn't just about what happens in between those ropes.
Yeah.
And I know people might argue with me on that, but it's a fact. Like, it's like, if every match was just like, if we watched every show and all you saw were the two wrestlers in the ring and then the bell rings, it wouldn't be as entertaining.
No.
It just wouldn't.
No. Let's move on and talk about three guys that define how to be fully rounded characters while getting it done in the ring, competing for the MCW World Heavyweight title in a three-way match. Ricky South defending that championship against Caveman Ugg and Edward Dusk. You know, Ugg is the consummate professional who's been champion everywhere he goes. Ricky South is the now. He's the guy that took the PWA title off Caveman Ugg. He is defining what it means to be an Aussie wrestler in 2025 just by constantly delivering. Dusk, clearly the future. The man is so into that character and just delivering consistently high-quality promos, and looked like he was going to get the win here until some interference from the Icons helped Ricky South retain. Nick, what did you reckon of this as a main event?
Great main event. You look at the guys in it. How can it not?
That powerbomb on the stage
was savage. Yeah,
that was solid.
It was the thing on it as well is that, like, I've been quite open in saying I thought Ricky South wasn't really connecting with, and like I think I think his status up the card was based more on his reputation and his work in other promotions as opposed to his actual reaction to the Melbourne audience. But on this show, like, he was on fire. Like, the crowd absolutely hated his guts, and
Do
like
you
he
know who
was.
he is to me? He's like their version of Gunther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I
he's
see when I
like-
see him. I was like, wow. Like, especially on that show, in that match.
I will.
And,
I've got to ask a question before you go on, Nick, because it's been on my mind. Do you think there's a chance that the wedgie was on purpose? Because Ricky South had a lot of bum showing, and if you want to get a crowd to react, you give them something easy to latch onto. Was that a purposeful choice?
The first time, he used to be a very over the top character, so I would not put it past him. And from all accounts,
Still needs to
the
change that
story-
fucking music.
Yeah, but it's also got the story of it
so
that,
good.
he's the guy that will do pretty much anything for, the often told story about the guy that was so dedicated to the show that he loaded a ring truck on his own, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he was. Just one thing I wanted to put on it is we're talking about guys being the best versions of themselves. Both Ricky looked like a star in this. He always does carry himself, but his presentation and the dude looks like $1 million. And I know he's put some stuff off on online. Dusk is the most unlikely body guy in Aussie wrestling.
Yeah.
And, it's something that I only really noticed towards the end of last year. Holy shit, he's gotten himself into amazing shape, and he's taken this thing of MCW's given him an opportunity to be a top guy, and he's well, I'm going to make sure that that if they're going to let me be one of the top guys, I'm going to be the top guy. And it's a situation that you've got where Ricky and Ugg have both been on top of major promotions for quite a while, and Dusk is relatively newer in that role, and he looked every bit the part.
He didn't look out of place at all. No, you're
at
correct.
all. And the crowd, the crowd loves Ugg. Dusk's reaction was a little bit more muted, but they were still invested in him as well. One thing I like too is it does seem to have a storyline situation. Obviously, Ugg was the monster in PWA, held the belt for 3 years, and Ricky was, the man who slayed the beast. Then, Ugg finally defeats Slex, and Ricky's the guy who screws him over on that. I really like this idea they have that Ugg's the unstoppable monster, except for one man as well. It's the monster's mountain to climb is a really cool sort of idea. And it's the crowd wants Ugg to be the top guy, but again, it's a situation where I don't think he needs it. I actually think he's one of those guys that his status on the show is bigger than the belt. Ugg could be in the mid card and lose every match for the next 5 years, and the crowd will still love him. So
that's why I thought it was peculiar that they had Ricky pin Dusk.
Yes.
I thought that was
a bit feel like a bit of protecting that in case they do that one-on-one match, because I still think Ricky and Ugg is still probably my favorite ever match from Black Label, that title change match. But yeah, it kind of felt like a litmus test to see okay, well, could we potentially go with Dusk being the guy in the future, or it just. The only negative thing on that is the run-in fest at the end, because that's every main event. That's it does feel a bit done, but I think it was also painted into a corner with two very strong, challenging characters. They had to do a bit of an out for it, because I think if they'd done a clean ending, it would have cut either Dusk or Ugg off at the knees to do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think in the matter of Dusk being the one who gets pinned, knowing what Edward Dusk is like and knowing that he thinks the way that Nick and I do about wrestling, it wouldn't surprise me if that was something that he had said, no, I should take the pin in this because then in the future X, Y, Z, right? Like that is the way that I think his storytelling can often work. So I'm not going to say, oh, it's, you know, they definitely should have had Ugg take the pin, because maybe it pays off in some interesting way, even if it's the video package of, you know, Dusk getting pinned and then getting pinned and then getting pinned before he can finally make it. I don't 100% know that that's what it's going to be, but it does seem interesting that he would take the pin and not Ugg. And I don't think that that's a situation that happens without it being thought about. Right? Yeah. Matty Huss in the chat says...
Matty Huss's comment, though, too, that was a very audible thing from the crowd. They walk a very fine line of potentially pissing off your audience for the fact that they won't invest because they're just waiting for the run-in sort of situation as well.
Yeah. I mean, there is heel heat, and then there's just like shit heat.
Yeah, like
whereas you want to build them up to the fact that they want to come back because they know eventually my babyface is going to get up. You don't want them to eventually go, look, he's never going to fucking win, because they're just going to do this.
Especially with like MCW's target demographic has largely shifted. There's a lot more families, kids, especially like a lot of that like kids around 12 to 15-year-old sort of kids there as well. So that's your audience that you know. The attention span can pass very quickly if you speaking as a 42-year-old ADHD off the chart person, but it's they have to walk a fine line, I think, before kids could lose interest too. So,
the great Michael Lee has come into the chat with Dusk's entire 2024 in MCW, capped off with Brooksy, mixed in with his OPW outings alongside Gangrel, to me proved he is the future. I don't think he needs a long title reign, but a reign definitely should happen. Todd, what do you think about, does Dusk need to hold the belt?
I think he does. But they need to, and I'm sure they are working on it, where the circumstances are going to be perfect for it. Like, I think this is where I think they probably should have pinned Ugg just to sort of like move him out of the way. Yeah. And I like the fact that Nick said, like, during this match live, they were allowed a chance for Dusk than what they were for Ugg. Because at the start of this whole thing, it was very much like Ugg was the babyface and Dusk felt like he was just there in previous outings.
Yep.
Whereas to see that tide changing is good, because it's a hard thing where, like, Dusk is great. Don't get me wrong, and I love his work and I love his psychology and I love all of that sort of stuff. I don't know if, at least to start with, he was someone who could be embraced by everybody in the crowd. Whereas I think they're trying to soften him up now in a way that will be more for everybody to go, okay, I fucking like this dude. And I think it's going to be a process. And that's why I think that they didn't do it now. Because, look, if they'd have given him the belt now, it wouldn't hit right, I don't think. I don't know about you two, but I think if they'd have given him the belt here at Anniversary in a three-way match, it just wouldn't, like, he needs to earn that in a one-on-one match where everything is in the right spot. You know what I mean? Like, say he's going with, and this is just me again, completely spitballing something. Like, we've got a match where finally it's one-on-one, Dusk South for the title. During the match, Rocky comes out. Brooksy cuts him off. Like, South, like the Thorpe and thing come off. Like, Jarvis cuts them off. Like, there are people to counter the people that are coming out. So it's left to be one-on-one, just the two of them. And there's got to be that moment of realization when Ricky South looks and goes, shit, I'm on my own now.
And I do think, like, for the babyface story, Dusk needs to climb the mountain, right?
Yeah.
It can't be Dusk getting the win in a match. It needs to be Dusk has ascended to the point where he proves that he is on the top of this company. I think that's the only story that they really can tell with that. And I think it's definitely the kind of story that Dusk would want to tell with that. So if you want to see the next chapter of that story, MCW High Stakes 2025 has started announcing some matches. We've got Lucas Fantasia taking on Lucky O'Leary in the Battle of the Pink. We've got the MCW Intercommonwealth title getting defended by Adam Brooks against Ryan Rapid. Jarvis is taking on the next member of the Icons in his quest to wipe them out against Robbie Thorpe. And we've got that number one contenders tournament first round match between the Physicals and the Midnight 2, Carlo Cannon and John Wen, as well as, I'm sure, more things to get added to that show.
Also, whoever Eugenie is defending against.
Whoever Eugenie wrestles with Erica Reid as the special guest referee. So if you're in...
Also, because it's high stakes, I think all of those matches are spin the wheels.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
I think maybe Erica, the match with Erica, the ref, that might already be the gimmick. But the rest,
that would be the gimmick.
Yeah, so if you're in Melbourne, head to mcwtix.com.au to get your tickets for High Stakes. And speaking of Aussie shows that are coming up in the near future, as we said, Michael Lee was in the chat before, and he has done, as always, the awesome work of putting together a list of shows coming up this week in the Australian Wrestling group on Facebook, Australian Wrestling Community on Facebook there. If you're in the ACT, you can head to Slam Pro Wrestling League's Academy Showcase 8 on April 5th. Also on April 5th in New South Wales is Newey Pro's Shattered 8. If you're up here in Queensland, in fact, up in Queensland, QWA has Aftershock on Saturday, April 5th, which I believe has Sam Cannon versus Andre Irons. Ooh, I want to see that. In South Australia, Riot City Wrestling has Trial by Stone on Saturday, April 5th. If you're in Victoria on Saturday, April 5th, you can get to PCW's Ignition, and capping it off Saturday, April 5th in Western Australia, EPW has Collision Course. So no matter where you are in the country, just about, there's somewhere that you can catch some great live wrestling. And I know that for me, the highlight of my week tends to be when I go to a great local pro wrestling show. So let's talk about the highlights of our week in a segment that we call Chicken Salad and Chicken Shit. Let's start by getting the chicken shit out of the way. Nick Galea, what did you hate this week?
I don't want to harp on a negative person, but like seeing former wrestlers from the past using social media to just be horrible people is my chicken shit. Like, I know he pops, the only reason he pops up in any sort of relevance in 2025 is when he's saying something horrible, but seeing Val Venus go on to, or Sean Morley go on to a very positive tolerance post on social media made by Chelsea Green, and basically he encouraged his followers to dogpile onto her and post some pretty horrible shit. I'm just like, it's
for like, different reasons. Like him and like Ryback can both get in the bin.
Well, like Ryback at least. Like Ryback just seems to be a bit of a tinfoil hat sort of guy who's kind of ignorant. Like Morley is deliberately looking for people to antagonize, and like I thought the response that Chelsea put up was like quite classy and quite well measured, but like it's just a situation of like, I mean, he's Mr. Choppy your PP, you know, like, he's not really speaking from a position of moral superiority. It's just every time he's one of those people, every time I see him on social media, I'm like, this fucking guy. So
yeah. I'm going to back you up there and say that it's really strange for someone to be so like dead set on what parts people should have where, considering he seems to have an anus for a mouth that just spews shit constantly, right? So he can get in the bin. Todd, chicken shit.
Geez, mine's a bad one as well. Like this week we saw there was like pictures put up of Booker T being at a seminar that was run by Chase. Was it Rance Chase or Chase? I can't remember what his name is.
Chase and Rance. Yep.
Yeah, that's the guy. He's a convicted like sex offender. And people just dogpiling on Booker T about being there. Where like, and I kind of like, because Booker T like posted a response to it today, so I just want to read it, and then we'll talk about it afterwards because I think it's like an important. Booker wrote, "I've been a guest trainer at hundreds of wrestling schools over the years, helping to teach and mentor up and coming talent. I don't conduct background checks on every trainer or individual I've crossed paths with or taken photos with along the way. This feels like a clear attempt to falsely associate me with something that I have 100% nothing to do with and absolutely no knowledge of. Any student who's trained with me can vouch for the kind of coach, mentor, and person I am. My record speaks for itself." Like, not to defend him, but I kind of completely understand that. Like if you don't know this sort of stuff, like who you're going to, like, sure he could have possibly done some background checks on him, but how often do you do that when you're going to like places?
Yeah.
Really, and I know people. I know that the lynch mob are going to be out for Booker because Booker has some like views about AEW that I know a lot of people don't like, so they're going to jump on that sort of stuff without even thinking that same guy that they're jumping on about, like Kenny Omega, tried to get hired in AEW multiple times.
It's
so like it's a thing with us here, and this is just like a personal thing. There was someone that will be in the country really soon that has sort of like something happen with the whole speaking out moment. And I'll be completely honest with you, that person like messaged me,
contacted the show.
I don't know what, contacted the show. Well, messaged me in particular, contacted the show, and I just didn't look at it or answer it because I knew the thing and I just didn't want to be involved in it, to be honest with you. I would rather steer clear of it rather than get dragged into that mess. So, I don't think he knew. I really don't think he would have known because I don't think he's just like, okay, I'm in this town. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to take a photo with her. Like, how many times have you taken photos? Like say you, Locke, you'll be at a show and like a group of fans will ask for a photo. Do you ask for a background check on all those guys?
God,
before
no.
You get a photo?
No.
No, you wouldn't, would you?
No.
Because you just don't. You just go, okay, have a photo.
I think the thing with Chaz and Rance is a lot of WWE guys actually have trained at, because his wrestling school is based in Florida. Ricochet, I know I've seen has been someone who is openly trained at his facility for quite a bit and is around it. So to be devil's advocate on Booker's probably saying, "Oh, like I know this person that's there. I know this person's there. It's just a booking, like whatever."
Yeah.
It's more pointing to people who continually associate with him, and like it's pretty well known in indie wrestling what he did and what the convictions against him are. So, with the fuck it, we'll just say it's Mike Quackenbush. I'm the biggest Chikara fan you will ever meet. Like, I was a diehard Chikara fan. For me, I had no aspirations of going to WrestleMania. I was considering going to see King of Trios. So like
King of Trios was always great. Like one of my favorite spots is in King of Trios match.
As someone who has a mind for wrestling, Quackenbush is an amazing mind. The problem with the speaking out thing with Quackenbush is, in my perspective, is there's two sets of accusations against him. One is the fact that he cheated on the accusation is he cheated on his wife with a wrestler from his company, female wrestler. That's not criminal. It makes him not a particularly nice person, but it's not a criminal act. The more core issue is there were multiple wrestlers within Chikara under his watch and of his students who had pretty serious allegations of abuse against them. I think one or two of them had criminal charges against them. And the fact that you've got two of his students purposely changed their gimmicks and dropped any reference to Chikara from it. Two of his oldest students immediately retired from wrestling instead of having any association with him. It doesn't paint a good picture of being association. But I also know there are some people in Melbourne who have done the training, like who are going to this promotion. They are invested. They're putting money into it. my take on this is, look, there's a difference of what he's done against some other people who got named and speaking out have done. There's a big difference.
Yes. Yes.
Is he a yeah, I can't judge on that. It's not a criminal act. But my feeling on this, as removing the wrestling part of this and just being like a person, is if someone wants to go and glean from the fact that, okay, this guy has 30 plus years of knowledge and has worked for the WWE and could, it could rapidly accelerate the growth on someone's wrestling, fuck yeah, good for them. It's more the idea of, as long as you are aware going in that to me, I've hit the point now where we've had with like promotions and stuff where we've gone, don't trust this, or this person's a scumbag, or this or that, or this or that. I'm at the stage now is the information is out there. It's buyer beware. So it's like, if you go in knowing that this guy's got the accusations against him and you go, yes, but I also make the calculated risk that what I will gain from this is acceptable for me, because like someone might be hardline and go, it's not acceptable for me. Someone else might go, hey, well, he hasn't been charged with a criminal offense. It's all shades of gray. But it's the thing on it is, if you go in knowing and then he does turn out to be a piece of shit, you can't go, oh, but everyone told me all along, and he turned out to be, the snake that everyone claimed he was. So it's a thing now of like, the information is there. For want of a better word, better understanding, wrestlers in the United States will always see Australia as a place to come to make money, because we will always, like, there will always be people in wrestling who will take someone from the United States regardless. Look at guys in Speaking Out. A lot of them are still booked in a lot of promotions. Marty Skrull's still getting work, you know what I mean? So it's more a thing of, as long as you're aware of what you're getting into, then that's your decision to make. I'm not your dad. So
see, my thing was, would it be a cool interview? Yes. Would it be worth the trouble? No.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
Especially with the stances that we've taken on like other issues. Is that I feel that if I said no, but it would be fairly hypocritical of me to do that.
Yeah,
and I just not worth a great.
Quack's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, but I still wouldn't. I wouldn't feel comfortable paying money into his pocket. Again, that's my stance.
I would feel weird about it without talking about it, and I don't know if I'd want to talk about it because I don't know the direction it would go in.
Yes, 100%.
It's one of those things where at worst, at minimum, he was in charge of a culture where there was some very serious bullying going on, and it went unaddressed, and that's the least that it could be, right?
If the guys who are doing that seminar and that course and they can get something for it, I genuinely wish every single one of them all the best.
It's a personal, like 100% a personal choice. It was just my personal choice to not platform.
And he's going to get his bag, right? Like that's within his rights.
Got his bag. Yeah, he's already got his bag.
The aforementioned, he's a relative nobody in the grand scheme of things, but if they bought out a Chase and Rance, where someone who has a allegation and an actual conviction of statutory rape against them, then that's a completely different, it's not a completely different matter, but then that's a lot more black and white. This is always going to be open, because on any situation where you're always going to have people who are going to say, yes, he's great. No, I'm a music person using a music analogy. There's a guy named Ronnie Radke, sings for a band called Falling in Reverse, has allegations against him a mile.
Ex-partner of
Soraya has an allegation list a mile long. Yet when his band did their Australian tour recently, every show was sold out. So there are people that it's not everyone has the same standard, and I'm expecting everyone to have the same standard, I think, is foolish. It's more just having So,
Andy wrote, "No one needs a diatribe." Didn't your website interview him? Just asking. Pretty sure they did, though.
I'm going to say, don't get me started on Ronnie Radke, first of all, because the Spirit Box thing, where he's like, oh, if they wrote a song calling me a soft spine, I'm going to start talking shit about them. It's like, okay, prove their point. Anyway, that's beside the point. Matty Huss said he got mistaken for Quackenbush at the last Mayhem Showcase show. Maybe need to get him one of those backslide girl mustache disguises. Matty, I can tell you for a fact you're much more attractive than Quackenbush. Don't worry about it. I am going to jump on the bandwagon of Andy at Bob Backlund Fridge's chicken shit, saying wrestling is a creative industry, from the wrestlers to musicians, photographers, videographers, commentators, and artists who design merch and t-shirts. People whose livelihoods are threatened every day by AI that steals their art and diminishes their opportunities. Wrestling companies using AI art on their social media is insulting to all creatives, and it's mind-boggling to me that one of Australia's biggest wrestling companies could have been so thoughtless over the weekend. The amount of AI art that's getting shared in wrestling is ridiculous. Seeing, the few people who are, obviously going against it, like Samoa Joe, who shared a piece of art, and when it got called out as AI, went and contacted the artist that provided it to him to say, hey, confirming you're happy with me putting your name out to say that you are the artist behind this. The person went, oh, but it was actually AI. He went, okay, deleted. Like, it's good to see that there are people taking it seriously, but man,
it's also hard to know.
Like
sometimes, isn't it? Would it be hard to know if something's AI or not? Especially for someone like Samoa Joe, who's just seeing something. Oh, that's cool. I'm going to share that.
Yeah, that's definitely an element.
There are some tells in certain art. There's.
Yeah, like if you showed a thing
you say if it's a person that's got they'll end up having 20 fingers instead of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some tells, and the amount of posts going around with AI created images now is just it's mind boggling. But yeah, it's frustrating to see it being used.
Unfortunately, it's the world that we live in 2025 too. So all you can really do in that is the actual, again, from my perspective, is if creators who are actually creating, is support those creators.
Absolutely.
These merch, share, share, follow, subscribe, buy something.
And like Pario Magazine said, right? The Ghibli trend was a well-known AI fad. If you were seeing Studio Ghibli art over the past week, you could be sure that it was AI, because everyone was doing because it got added to GPT 3.0. So everyone was making pump an image in and get the Ghibli version of it. So
all this stuff makes me feel really old. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what's a Ghibli?
I know what Ghibli is, but
moving on. Before these old men start yelling at clouds, let's move on to some more positive stuff. Nick, what's your chicken salad for the week?
My chicken shit. I mentioned her on the negative, but I really like the gimmick that they're on SmackDown at the moment and on WWE TV. I really like the Secret Hervis gimmick that Chelsea's doing with I think that's genuinely really funny, and it's just Chelsea's one of my favorite wrestlers in it, because she just, no matter what absurdity she does, she just leans into it so hard, and it looks like everyone doing it is having a lot of fun too. So, and it seems to be a gimmick where the crowd's actually starting to catch on with it too. So yeah, every time that they pop up on shows, I'm like, that's pretty fun. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Todd, chicken salad for the week?
Somebody put it up on X, and I had to think about it. And it was they were like, is Toni Storm possibly the best women's promo ever? And man, she would have to be a shout at the moment. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anyone that has done the work that she's doing, or is doing the work that she's doing. That whole promo, the Thunder Tits promo the other day, she's the only person I know that can say that stuff on national TV and get away with it.
Yep.
The work that she's doing, and I know this sounds very fucking one-sided and very not at all unbiased, because she's a friend of the show, a friend of ours. But you look at her body of work, I put a promo that she does up against the promo that, like, say, Mercedes Moné does, and it blows it out of the water.
Yeah.
99 times out of 100. Like, she would have to be one of the best promos in the world that can also back it up in the ring.
Yep. Amen. Jeff Setti in the chat, chicken salad. Naomi is doing the promo work of her career. Foley said a heel is only as good as their motivation, and Naomi is doing a great job showing her motivation. Her heel work is amazing. Speaking of, let's throw a quick chicken salad to the fact that Mick Foley seems to be okay after a major car crash that he was hospitalized in. That was an intense crash, so thankfully he's all right. Matty Huss says Nate Hunter versus JXT in a number one contenders match at Mayhem next week. Nate's time to shine. Let's go. And Andy at Bob Backlund Fridges says seeing people like Lena Cross and Kingsley confident in their Australian training and resumes heading overseas to give it a shot is such a positive reflection on Australian wrestling. Alex Fireheart's chicken salad. Naomi Yoshimura is having his first match back this weekend after 2 years off due to a serious neck injury, and seems they're easing him back in with a part-time schedule. Hope he stays healthy. There is so much good stuff. I've got two.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Come on,
brother. Well, you know.
First off,
we've got get to do it all together, so...
We've got a 6-woman ladder match for the NXT Women's North American title, and the first woman to qualify for it, Zarya. That's what we like to see. We love the Aussie women getting their time to shine. Zarya is exactly, what people like Lena Cross and Kingsley are in the mold of, in that taking the Aussie experience, translating it to the big time, and Zarya is doing such a magnetic job in what she's doing and always has. The second one is a little more personal, and it's connected to, seeing people like Lena Cross and the Pariah absolutely shine. And it's the fact that over the weekend, I got to be a part of World Series Wrestling once again on ring announcing and commentary duties. Once again, finding out that I was ring announcing the day before it actually happened. So that's always fun. But due to some, card subject to change stuff, I never quite know who I'm going to end up on the commentary desk with, but it was an absolute pleasure to have one Mr. Todd Eastman on the desk beside me, and getting to have Todd in character and going back and forth, because as you may know, this is a bit of a more real version that we get here on the podcast. But when Todd is doing the full Eastman, when Todd is doing the full Eastman, it is an absolute delight. And getting to bounce off that for a night was just so much fun. I always have a blast at World Series Wrestling. They do great stuff, and you can see the people like the Pariah and like Lena Cross, who are just there working side by side with Matt Cardona. And you can see people like him and Nick Nemeth who are looking at these talents and going, oh, these guys are good, right? Like, I think it was Cardona put up a post about, the Pariah are booked for Indie Mania. Like, they're the future of the tag team world. Like, that's what he's posting, so keep an eye on those people, because they're going to have huge success, and keep an eye on World Series Wrestling when it comes around, because obviously I have a blast doing it, but it also shows off how good the talent is, right?
I gotta say, like, it was great being able to do that, like the commentary with you. It was a little bit unfortunate because poor Mitch Ryder was sick, so he was supposed to be on the show. We were supposed to be part of, well, if you were watching the Brisbane show, we were supposed to be in a triple threat with Ricky Utami and Sydney Akeem. So that's why I went on X this week and called out Sydney for the next tour, because I wanted to see Mitch and Sydney lock up, because I think that'd be an amazing match.
Oh, yeah.
The two of those guys together. So luckily now Mitch is feeling better, which is good. But that part sucked. It was really fun, like, doing commentary with you. Considering that, like, you must have known, because for the first match or so, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I was very, but then I sort of, fuck it, I'm just going to be Eastman. Fuck it. And then after that, it was fine. I was more worried about dropping the C-bomb, to be perfectly honest with you.
Once it started, it was on, which is like also how it goes here at twitch.tv/WrestleRadio Australia. Once we start just after 7:30 every Thursday night, Australian Eastern Standard Time, we are on and racing, and you can be part of the chat like Jeff said he did tonight, like Matty Huss, like Andy at Bob Backman Fringes, like Alex Fireheart. All of those people come along to twitch.tv/WrestleRadio Australia to be part of the conversation, and you can too. You can hit follow to get notified every time we go live. Hit subscribe if you really want to support what we're doing. Speaking of subscribing, you can subscribe to Wrestle Radio Australia on your podcast player of choice. It's free. Do it on YouTube, do it on Apple Podcasts, do it on Spotify, do it on Podcast Addict. Wherever you're getting your podcasts, hit subscribe. And if it is Apple Podcasts, if you stop by and give us a 5-star review, that's really helpful. It helps us get into more ears and get around broadcast to everyone that you're really enjoying Wrestle Radio Australia. Another way to do that is to get some merch. Head on over to Redbubble, search for Wrestle Radio Australia, grab that Wrestle Radio Australia merch, and the proceeds don't go to us. They go to Gotcha for Life and Beyond Blue, two awesome charities supporting mental health here in Australia. And if you're in the getting merch game, Kickout is a great place to do it. Kickout.com.au for merch of all your favorite Queensland and interstate wrestlers from around the country. You can contact them through their Insta page if you're a wrestler who wants to get on there. That's kickout.com.au for that merch. And, you know, speaking of other websites, you can go to plenty of other websites to follow what we're doing here at Wrestle Radio Australia. On the socials, we're at Wrestle Radio AU on Twitter and Instagram. Todd is at Beast Eastman. I am at Lachlan Albert. Nick is at NJ Galea. And you can follow all of us to hear our wrestling takes. You can also follow WrestleBrania at Wrestle_Brania to keep up with what's going on with them, because they are at the Burgee Band Room 7 p.m. this Sunday. You can get your tickets at the Comedy Festival website to check the Romano Army versus the Cava section. Do we have anything else that we need to mention, boys?
Need to take a breath.
Are you done? Are you sure? Yeah, take a breath. Come on, Excalibur. Someone is auditioning for the new AEW role. Has to be.
Hey, look, I just get so excited about Aussie wrestling, and so it's a delight to have someone like Nick Galea join us, who is so well-versed in it. Nick, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here, mate. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you for this is 2 times on now, and both times it's gone really over time because I do like a waffle. So.
like we always knew it was, because like I said to Lachlan, I think it was at World Series, I was like, look, if we don't do 2 shows, like review 2 shows on 1 episode, we're just gonna like not
fall behind
review a show. Yeah. Because it was like so much that came out in like a glut. Like there's stuff that we've just missed, which is like OzPro. We missed that second show. We probably won't end up doing Mayhem Mania because it was just now so long ago. So I might even tomorrow night jump on here and just do a watch along, just so we can talk shit and watch the show, something like that to catch up on it. So, like, we always knew this episode was going to go a while just because of the nature of the beast of what we were going to be doing, talking about these 2 shows. The fact that we didn't even talk about International tonight is a
that's right. So it seems like really, if you want to make sure you're, you know, have all your bases covered with wrestling, you do need to be following Wrestle Radio Australia, because there is more content than we can even keep up with. So follow so you can see if Todd's going to manage to get on and talk about Mayhem Mania. Keep up so that we can eventually talk about what's going on around the world of wrestling right here on Making Chicken Salad. On behalf of Todd Eastman and Nick Galea, I've been Lachlan Albert. Till next time, have a good one.
Here I was, blaming AEW for feeding you chicken shit, knowing you mindless millennials would be eating it up as if it were chicken salad, when it's really been your fault all along.
Make chicken salad out of chicken shit.